Chapter 3805. Where did this guy get the fire talisman from? Xiao Hua was shocked and hurriedly released his divine sense, preparing to use the divine sense hammer to block the fire talisman. He clearly knew that with Yuan Ye's strength, it was impossible for him to block the fire talisman he refined. However, just as he released his divine sense, Yuan Ye's figure unexpectedly flew out of the fire talisman. Yuan Ye's wolf-like figure skillfully stepped on Xiao Hua's familiar footwork, dodging left and right amidst the explosive fire talisman. Big Dipper magical fist? Xiao Hua was dumbfounded. Wasn't Yuan Ye's movement in the fire the Big Dipper magical fist he usually practiced? How do you know how to fly? Seeing Yuan Ye jump in the air with the help of the impact of the fire talisman, Yuan Ye turned pale with fright. In particular, Yuan Ye was born in the forest, so his figure was extremely agile. In a moment he was already close to Xiao Jian. Die. Since Yuan Ye had severed all ties with Xiao Jian, he would not be merciful. With a cold snort, he curled up his body and rushed towards Xiao Jian like a meteor with the help of the final explosion of the fire talisman. He waved the demonic hammer in his hand again, aiming for Xiao Jian's chest. Oh, so you don't know how to fly at all. Yuan Ye's last attack revealed his strength. Contempt once again appeared in Xiao Jian's eyes. After all, facing Yuan Ye who did not have the ability to fly, Xiao Jian was in an invincible position from the beginning. Seeing the demonic hammer coming, Xiao Jian cast a spell with both hands. Rays of light appeared and blocked in front of Xiao Jian like a shield. Then he moved his body and prepared to put some distance between him and Yuan Ye. Pa pa pa. The demonic hammer rushed over and effortlessly broke Xiao Jian's spell, causing Xiao Jian to be shocked. Damn it, when did this brat become so strong? No wonder he has repeatedly performed meritorious deeds on the battlefield these past few years. Even this old man has a headache when facing him, let alone ordinary people. Just as Xiao Jian was shocked, Yuan Ye's figure began to stagnate and began to fall. Xiao Jian's mouth curled into a sneer. His figure stopped and he took a deep breath. The true essence in his meridians surged. His hands formed a spell and dozens of tiny ice spikes slowly formed in his hands. The ice spikes flashed with a blue brilliance. Die. Xiao Jian's hands were about to wave as he grinned evilly. At the same time Yuan Ye roared, Die. This sound was so loud that it caused Xiao Jian's body to tremble and the magic power he was using to slow down slightly. It was also at this moment that Yuan Ye's body suddenly flew up from the ground. He gathered all the strength in his body on one arm and the demonic hammer in his hand smashed towards Xiao Jian's chest like a meteor. Ah! Xiao Jian turned pale with fright because this time Yuan Ye was really flying. Moreover, he was extremely close to Yuan Ye. When the demonic hammer struck, that suffocating force had already pressed down on his chest. Xiao Jian cried out in alarm. Seeing that it was not easy for him to dodge the demonic hammer and that Yuan Ye was already in front of the icicle, a look of madness appeared in his eyes. As he tried his best to dodge, the icicle in his hand shot out. Pooh! The demonic hammer hit Xiao Jian's left chest. With a muffled sound, his entire collarbone and arm immediately collapsed. Xiao Jian was in so much pain that he almost fainted. At the same time, Pu, several thin sounds rang out. Half of the dozen icicles nailed into Yuan Ye's body. Some of the icicles pierced through his body, while others pierced deeply into his flesh. Yuan Ye was already losing some blood. At this moment, he let out a blood-curdling scream as he fell from the sky. Xiao Jian forcefully endured the pain. His uninjured hand touched the small Qingquan bag. This small Qingquan bag contained the elixir refined by Xiao Hua. Xiao Jian understood that as long as he took the elixir, his life would not be in danger. However, just as he touched the small Qingquan bag, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. Following that, a layer of death aura flashed across his face. Xiao Jian did not even make a sound as his entire body fell from the sky after Yuan Ye. Roar! On the mountain ridge, the green leopard, whose flesh had been torn apart by the fire talisman, let out a low roar. It flew into the air and barely managed to catch Yuan Ye before slowly descending. When Yuan Ye came down from the green leopard's body, Xiao Jian's corpse and the demonic hammer also fell, falling right in front of Yuan Ye. Yuan Ye's body was covered in blood. The blood red in his eyes had already faded. He stared at Xiao Jian for a moment, then bent down and picked up the demonic hammer with difficulty. Finally he looked at Xiao Jian, who seemed to have died with his eyes wide open. With each step, he left behind a trail of blood as he slowly walked down the mountain ridge. Kill him, quick, kill him. Just as Xiao Jian walked down the mountain ridge, a group of people suddenly rushed over from below the mountain ridge. The first was a middle-aged man holding a flying sword in his hand. He shouted, "Yuanya actually dared to kill Prince Xiao. He is going to rebel against Jiang country. We must tear him into 10,000 pieces." "Lu Bingjun, do you want to kill me?" Yuanya's vision was a little blurry as he looked at the middle-aged man in front of him and asked indifferently. "That's right, Prince Xiao is the king of my Jiang country and also my savior. If you kill Prince Xiao, you will be going against my Jiang country and you will be a traitor. Naturally, I will take revenge for Prince Xiao." Lu Bingjun shouted, "However, since you are seriously injured, I will not make things difficult for you. Let my subordinates take your life." "Haha, who dares to kill me?" Yuanya stood there and after laughing he suddenly roared. His voice was like a bolt from the blue, shocking everyone, and no one dared to make a move. "Who dares to kill me?" Yuanya waved his magic hammer again and shouted loudly. This unparalleled aura was truly terrifying and no one dared to speak. "Who dares to kill me?" Although Yuanya shouted once again, his voice shaking the mountain ridge, his body was already swaying. The wounds on his body were bleeding profusely, and behind him, a trail of blood followed his feet all the way to the top of the mountain ridge. Although no one dared to reply, Yuanya's body also fell to the ground after the magic hammer powerlessly fell. "This." Lu Bingjun looked at Yuanya who had fallen to the ground and hesitated. At this time, behind Lu Bingjun and the others, dozens of Dao soldiers flew over in a hurry, but the person in front of them was Qin Xiaoyao. "How dare you, Lu Bingjun?" Seeing Yuanya's miserable state, Qin Xiaoyao was enraged and shouted, "You dare to injure my Jiang country's great general? Senior brother Qin." Seeing Qin Xiaoyao flying over, Lu Bingjun anxiously retreated a few meters and shouted, "General Yuanya was not injured by me, he was injured by fighting with the town king." "What? Town king?" Qin Xiaoyao was even more shocked. He raised his head to look at the source of the blood, and when he saw Xiao Jian's corpse, Qin Xiaoyao's face turned pale white. He did not even think of releasing his spiritual will, and flew towards the mountain ridge. When Qin Xiaoyao landed on the ground and inspected the corpse, he was completely dumbfounded. Xiao Jian was indeed deader than dead. A moment later, he turned his head to look at the place where Yuanya had fainted. He didn't know what to do. In the blink of an eye, the town king was killed and the great general fainted. The princess's imperial decree has arrived. Just as Qin Xiaoyao was at a loss, a sharp voice came from afar. The sound of horse hooves could be heard, and a female official dressed in palace attire came over with an imperial decree in her hand. Qin Xiaoyao and the others did not dare to be negligent, they all bowed, only to see the female official jumping down from her horse, opening up the imperial decree. Xiao Jian Yuanya barged into the imperial tutor's garden to duel, and injured the national body of my Jiang country. Yes. Lu Bingjun bowed and stepped forward, preparing to receive the imperial decree. But, Wu. Yuanya quickly woke up and stood up from the ground with difficulty. His eyes were wide open and looking at the imperial decree he said softly, Are you going to kill me?" "This is a fake imperial decree." Qin Xiaoyao roared, "The Changling princess will definitely not give such an imperial decree. Disciples, take this person down and follow me to see the princess." "How dare you?" The female official shouted and handed the imperial decree to Qin Xiaoyao with both hands and shouted, "General Qin, take a look yourself, is this handwriting and the national seal fake?" Qin Xiaoyao took it and looked at it carefully. With a shake of his hand, the imperial decree landed in the dust and he sneered, "Even if the handwriting and the national seal are not fake, then I, Qin, do not believe that this is the imperial decree of the princess." "Are you rebelling?" The female official screamed, "Where are the imperial guards?" "They are." Suddenly there was a loud voice behind everyone, and they saw rows of Dao soldiers holding Zhu immortal crossbows and god-killing bows, surrounding Qin Xiaoyao and the others in the center. "Damn it." Qin Xiaoyao's expression changed greatly. Looking at Granny Ji behind the Dao soldiers, he seemed to understand something. "All of you, surrender yourselves." Granny Ji said coldly, "This is the princess's decree. You have disobeyed the imperial decree and committed a great mistake. If you obey the imperial decree, this old one can still protect General Qin from death." "Ha, Granny Ji, who gave you the courage to do that? Are you not afraid that Li Shishu will know about this and come from Black Wind Ridge? Are you not afraid that Xiao Jinren will come back from Yaotai Mountain?" "Haha, you are the one who is bold." Granny Ji sneered. "Black Wind Ridge has been besieged by Confucian cultivators for many years. Does Li Shishu have the time to come to Jiang country? Xiaohua's cultivation is strong, but he went to Yaotai Mountain and did not come back. Did you not hear the blood on Yaotai Mountain? He has not come back yet. Do you think he can still come back? Disciples. Qin Xiaoyao waved his hand. I have previously betrayed Jiang country, and have been trying my best to make up for my mistakes. Now it is just like the old saying, the bow is hidden after the birds are gone, and the hound is cooked after the cunning rabbit. Xiao Jian and Yuanya have great achievements, and they have already fallen into their trap. What are we waiting for? Kill. The Fortune Gate disciples behind Qin Xiaoyao shouted loudly, ready to rush out. Get ready. Granny Ji's face was cold and she raised her hand, about to give the order. Who said this old man can't come to Jiang country? Suddenly, a faint voice sounded in the air, and Li Shishu's figure came from the distance. Spiritual Master Li? Granny Ji was shocked, but her panic only lasted for a moment. Chapter 3806. What? This old man is not the imperial tutor of Jiang country now, but you have such a big move without discussing it with this old man? Li Xiang looked in the direction of Granny Ji, but his gaze went past Granny Ji and the Dao soldiers to a pavilion in the distance. Don't you think so, Princess of Chongling? Diawu Diawu. Yuanya, who was on the verge of collapse, looked ashen at the pavilion. Qin Xiaoyao saw Li Xiang come over, first stilled, then was overjoyed. He hurried to Yuanya's side, supported him and took out a pill for him to take. But Yuanya waved his hand and the pill fell to the ground. His eyes were fixed on the pavilion as though he had died with a grievance. As expected, the Chongling princess slowly flew out of the pavilion, her face solemn and dignified. Greetings, Your Highness. Lu Bingjun and the others hurriedly bowed, while Qin Xiaoyao looked coldly, motionless. Jinren Li. The Chongling princess did not fly close and said from a distance, this is the internal affairs of Jiang country. Jinren is not the imperial tutor of Jiang country. Please do not interfere. And of course this old man is not the imperial tutor of Jiang country. Li Xiang nodded. But this old man was entrusted by Jinren Xiao to guard Black Wind Ridge and help you build Jiang country. This old man has the right to ask you. Haha, Jinren Xiao wants to help my Jiang country restore? This is a joke. The Chongling princess laughed to the sky. Previously, Aijia did not understand people's hearts, and only felt that everyone was good, especially Jinren Xiao who saved Aijia in danger. Aijia entrusted everything to Jinren Xiao, and the great wish of restoring the country to Jinren Xiao. But look, Jinren Li, do you know what kind of person Jinren Xiao sent Aijia is? This Xiao Jian forced Aijia to marry him, isn't it because he covets the throne of Jiang country? And for the throne he fought with his own disciple. Look at this General Yuanya, when he saw Aijia he called Aijia his Diawu. If Aijia was not the princess of Chongling, would he do this? Would he make such a moving story? Diawu, Diawu, do you really think so? Yuanya's body swayed as he spoke with difficulty. There were tears of blood in his eyes. But the Chongling princess ignored him and said to Li Xiang, since Aijia has said so much, I am not afraid to say more. Jinren Li is an open and above-board person. He has kept Jinren Zhao's trust. But have you ever thought about whether Jinren Xiao really wants to restore my country? Oh, why can't he? Li Xiang frowned, puzzled. If he doesn't want to, why would he do so much for you? Taoist Master Xiao is only pretending to establish a country for my Jiang country. In reality, he wants to establish his own Xiao country. The Chongling princess said coldly. How is that possible? Li Xiang was really surprised. Jinren Li, listen to me. The Chongling princess said with a smile. That day on Black Wind Ridge, when Xiao Hua killed the Copper Pillar State Preceptor, he said, Xiao is the beginning. Jinren Li, tell me, what is Xiao Shishir? Wasn't it just to establish the Xiao Empire? This is one. Jinren Xiao established the Fortune Gate at Black Wind Ridge. Isn't he going against my Jiang country's royal family? The previous imperial preceptor never established his own sect, right? This is the second. Jinren Xiao not only established the Fortune Gate, but also forbade the disciples of the Fortune Gate from entering politics. Isn't he just trying to separate his disciples from the Jiang country's imperial preceptor, and take over my Jiang country's royal family? This is the third. Jinren Xiao said that he did not take my Jiang country's offerings, then, what benefits does he get from helping Aijia restore my country? If Jinren Li thinks carefully, doesn't Jinren Xiao want to use Aijia as an excuse to first use Jiang country, and then establish Xiao country? This is the fourth. There is also the fifth. Since Jinren Xiao took the Copper Pillar State's 5-dragon jade seal, he should give it to Aijia to manage and use. Why didn't he take it out? Isn't it because he wants to establish his own country? There is a sixth. Li Xiang asked with interest. Of course. The Changling princess gritted her teeth and said, it has been several years since the Jade Pavilion meeting. If Jinren Shao took the Imperial Preceptor's lot, why hasn't he returned? My Jiang country has not been able to establish a country because we are waiting for the Imperial Preceptor's lot? If Jinren Shao does not have any other intentions, Aijia will be the first to not believe it. A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Li Xiang shook his head slightly. Jinren Shao has done so much for you. If he listens to you, he will be disappointed. Even this Li feels it is not worth it for Jinren Shao. Fine, since we do not agree, then this Li will not say more. Today, Her Highness the Princess has issued an imperial decree. This Li and Jiang country have broken all ties. Since Jinren Li has come to Jiang country, do not leave for now. The Changling princess smiled slightly. Aijia still has a place to borrow Jinren? Li Xiang's expression changed slightly. His gaze was like lightning as he looked at the Changling princess. He asked in disbelief, You still have designs on the energy stone mines of Black Wind Ridge? What? That belongs to my Jiang country. Is it wrong for Aijia to take it back? The Changling princess asked. Ah, Changling princess. You are too greedy. Do you know what you are saying? This old man really does not know what basis you have to dare to say this to this old man. Li Xiang roared with laughter. Of course a Changling princess does not dare to say it, but this king can say it. Just as Li Xiang was laughing, another middle-aged man walked out of the pavilion that the Changling princess had flown out of. This middle-aged man wore a purple gold crown and a three-clawed gold dragon king robe. His slender figure looked like jade, graceful and noble. This person flew out of the pavilion and slowly flew towards the Changling princess on a cloud, his face indifferent. Hi Tian? When did your Jiasa country come to Jiang country to join in the fun? When Li Xiang saw this man, his expression was shocked. He had not thought that the Jiasa country would interfere. Yes, this person was Hai Tian, Prince of Jiasa, the one that Xiaohua had seen at the secret auction. What is strange about this king's appearance? Hai Tian smiled faintly like a spring breeze, making people involuntarily submit to him. The so-called Jiang country has yet to be established, and this capital city is a city without a master. This king came to take a look. It won't hinder anyone, right? It's fine if it's not a hindrance, but if it's a hindrance, then it's best not to come. Li Xiang narrowed his eyes and said coldly. Actually, at this time, how could he not know that the twists and turns were all caused by the Jiasa country? Ah, fellow immortal Li is right. Hai Tian laughed. It's fine if it's not a hindrance, but if it's a hindrance, then it's best not to come. Since you're here and you're in the way, then it's best not to go back. Li Xiang nodded. Prince Hai Tian clearly wants to interfere in the matters of Jiang country, and clearly has the intention to get involved in Black Wind Ridge. Of course. Hai Tian did not hesitate to reveal his ambition. This king has always wanted to see the strength of Black Wind Ridge, but the tortoise-shell formation of Black Wind Ridge is really powerful. This king knows that he does not have the ability to break that formation. Since fellow immortal Li has come today, then don't go back. Li Xiang laughed. I understand. All of this, it was all bait just to lure me into it. So I am the big fish that the prince wants to catch. Yes, in the entire country of Jiang, only fellow immortal Li is worthy of my attention. Otherwise, how could I come here personally? Hai Tian nodded and replied. You want to capture me with just your strength? Li Xiang sneered. Aren't you afraid of a life and death struggle? This king naturally doesn't need to worry before the destruction of Jiang country. Hai Tian rubbed his nose. His posture was very carefree, but the current me is far from the Hai Tian that fellow immortal Li has seen before. As he spoke, Hai Tian's body flashed with Buddhist light, and streams of mind power surged from his body. As Hai Tian formed a Buddhist seal with his hand, a Buddhist protector's Vajra image slowly appeared on the surface of Hai Tian's body. Sensing Hai Tian's Buddhist protector's divine ability, Li Xiang's expression changed slightly. He understood in his heart that with his early nascent soul stage cultivation, he really wasn't a match for Hai Tian. Fellow immortal Li. Hai Tian raised his neck and said, This king still advises you, don't tear your face too much. Your Li country and my Jiasa country can be considered allies in the early years, and have long since had some feelings of incense. If you are willing to submit, this king doesn't mind speaking in front of my Jiasa country's king. Haha. Not waiting for Hai Tian to finish speaking, a sneer came from about 10 zhang to Li Xiang's right. Amidst the runes in the air, Xiaohua's figure gradually appeared. So what if we tear apart all our faces? What? Hai Tian, are you going to bite me? Taoist Master Xiao. Hearing Xiaohua's voice, Qin Xiaoyao's face lit up. When Xiaohua's figure appeared, he couldn't help but shout, Taoist Master is back? Taoist Master Xiao is back, Taoist Master Xiao is back. The hearts and livers of the Fortune Gate's disciples had been tormented several times and were somewhat numb. Now that they had come back from death's door, seeing Xiaohua return, they couldn't help but cheer. Even the previously indifferent Chongling princess and the indifferent Granny Ji's faces instantly changed. Yuanya. As soon as Xiaohua appeared, other than saying this to Hai Tian, he opened his mouth and scolded, You useless thing, hurry up and take the pill. Your grandmother, haven't you heard of that saying? There are plenty of fish in the sea? You are the dignified descendant of the Wolf King from the Wolf Valley, how can you be bewitched by this vulgar and beautiful woman of the secular world? You are just the daughter of a fallen country's king, what is so great about you? In the future, this old man will find you an immortal palace maid. Taoist Master. Yuanya, who had been robbed by the ruthless secular and cold profiteer, couldn't help but cry out when he heard Xiaohua's scolding, which was more warm than any kind of warm words. It seemed that blood-red tears flowed from his eyes that had never shed tears before. Taoist Master said, Yeah, quickly take the pill. Qin Xiaoyao hurriedly sent the pill to Yuanya's mouth. This was personally refined by Taoist Master. Chapter 3807. The stubborn Yuanya was now as obedient as a 3-year-old child. After taking the pill, his body, which was barely holding on, went limp and fell on Qin Xiaoyao's body. Ha 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 ha, wonderful, wonderful. Hai Tian didn't seem to be angry at Xiaohua's words, nor was he surprised by the Fortune Gate disciples' cheers. He only laughed and clapped his hands, his voice echoing in the air like a giant. This old man thought I had caught a big fish, I didn't expect Taoist Xiao to walk right into my trap. This king is really happy. Taoist Xiao, we meet again. Do you know how much effort this king has spent to find your whereabouts? This old man is not Fairy Xiang Feng, I'm not interested in men. Xiaohua curled his lips. If you want to find her, this old man will give you a communication talisman. Fairy Xiang Feng? Hai Tian was stunned as if he didn't understand, but he didn't care and laughed. This king is very curious, Xiaohua. That day at the secret auction, this king saw you with the 100 Flowers Valley's princess. At that time, your cultivation seemed very ordinary. How come after the secret auction, you met the light beast, and your cultivation improved by leaps and bounds? Could it be that the 1,000 demons sacred ground really has a demon fruit that can increase the cultivation of human cultivators? Why should this old man tell you? If you want, you can kneel and lick the light beast. Xiaohua stroked his chin, looked at Hai Tian with a smile and asked with interest, This old man has already appeared, you're actually not afraid at all, could it be that you still have a backup plan? Hee, you actually saw through it. Hai Tian laughed, this king wanted to give you a surprise, but since you don't like surprises, I'll let you see now. As he spoke, a series of Buddhist chants sounded in the air. Amit Ba. 4 old monks in monks' robes flew over with Buddhist weapons in their hands. Each of the old monks' bodies flashed with a strong Buddhist light. Hiss. Xiaohua sent an emoji of sucking in a breath of cold air as he exclaimed in astonishment. When did the Jiasa country have 4 4th-level elemental power? State preceptors? Haha, ignorant fools. Hai Tian laughed and mocked. How can a barren mountain like you know the foundation of my Jiasa country? It's fine if you lied to Chongling and Li Xiang, but you dare to show off in front of my Jiasa country? You dare to go to Yaotai Mountain with your little cultivation? In this king's opinion, you're hiding on the side cultivating? Damn, when did this old man lie? Xiaohua was speechless. Looking at Hai Tian, he said, This old man killed Leng Qinga at Black Mountain and forced Yan Jijin, was all fake? Do you think this old man doesn't even have the courage to go to Yaotai Mountain? Bronze Pillar State is nothing. Hai Tian sneered. A tiny country of Confucian cultivators was actually forced into a mess by a rogue Taoist cultivator. Jiang Jiang Jiang, Jiang Jiang. Ya. At this time this king will not hide it from you. If you had not interfered at Black Mountain, Chongling would not have been able to charge into my Jiasa country's territory. Otherwise, my Jiasa country would have destroyed Tongzhou long ago. Ha ha ha. Suddenly Xiaohua seemed to think of something and laughed. Chongling? Chongling? Hai Tian, don't you feel you are too close? Do you have some secret you are hiding? Is the baby girl that was lost in the Shenyao dark forest decades ago not the daughter of the king of Jiang country? Hai Tian stilled slightly, a hint of shock in his eyes. Yeah. Xiaohua said with a smile. This old man will tell you the baby girl you adopted in the Shenyao Dark Forest is this Chongling princess in front of you. However, she is not some princess of Jiang country. He pointed at the sun on the ground and said, that sun is Benwang's beloved item. It was given to Benwang's beloved consort. Oh, the ancients say one cannot trap a wolf without sacrificing a child. The Grand Prince is really willing to let his child experience life and death. Xiaohua immediately realized, but then he sneered. This kind of lie is enough to fool a child. Now that you mention it, you really underestimate our experience. Since you are Benwang's descendant, if you do not contribute, how can you enjoy the honor of a country? Hai Tian did not mind Xiaohua's provocation. People like Xiao Jian who only want to take advantage by scheming will all become bubbles in the end. Xiongyi, is this something you can think of? Suddenly Xiaohua shouted into the air. Hai Tian was shocked and looked in that direction in disbelief. There was a flash of light and Xiongyi's figure appeared. When he saw that Xiongyi was only in the early stage of yuanying, Hai Tian sighed in relief. Master, this disciple really did not think of it. Xiongyi smiled bitterly and shook his head. This disciple only noticed Xiao Jian's movements and knew that he coveted the Chongling princess and wanted to kill Yuan Ye. But this disciple really did not think that there was such a great hand behind the scenes. Otherwise, this disciple would not have invited Master and Li Shishu to come and watch the show. Hearing Xiongyi's words, Hai Tian was even more shocked. Xiongyi not only called Xiaohua master, but also said that other than Xiaohua and the other two Yuanying, Black Wind Ridge seemed to have other Yuanying cultivators. Also, Xiongyi had time to go to Black Wind Ridge to ask for reinforcements, but Xiaohua did not let him go. Either someone had already returned, or Xiaohua had the intent to kill. Of course, no matter what, this was somewhat out of Hai Tian's control. How could Hai Tian allow such a thing to happen? He roared, "Kill!" His body expanded again. With a wave of his hand, a crescent shovel appeared in his hand. Buddhist clouds formed under his feet as he attacked Xiaohua. Hee. Xiaohua sneered and shouted, "Li Xiang, Xiongyi, you and the others blocked the old monk in the east." "Yes, master." Xiongyi responded. He clapped his hands and used the hand of Yuanying, grabbing at the old monk out of thin air. Xiongyi moved. Li Xiang did not dare to be negligent. Seeing Xiongyi use the hand of Yuanying, he hesitated slightly and also waved his hand. An arm several zhang long rushed out of his Taoist robe and grabbed at the old monk with Xiongyi. Amitabha Buddha, the old monk's expression did not change at all. He only chanted the name of Buddha and waved the demon-subduing pestle in his hand. The Buddhist light around his body flashed and turned into a demon-subduing Buddha. Thousands of chanting sounds rose and met the two Taoist Yuanying hands. Looking at Xiaohua again, after instructing Xiongyi and Li Xiang, he held the wishful staff in his hand and smashed at Hai Tian's crescent shovel like lightning. Hai Tian had already seen Xiaohua's amazing divine power. Now he did not dare to be negligent. He urged his telekinesis and a faint sky dragon and white elephant were born on the crescent shovel. It was as if there was really the power of 9 dragons and 9 elephants, roaring and rushing to Xiaohua. Clang! The two murderous weapons collided with a deafening sound. Hai Tian felt an unparalleled force coming from the crescent moon shovel. The celestial dragon and the white elephant in the light of Buddha were annihilated in an instant. His arms were numb and his body flew backward involuntarily. The force rushed into his golden body of Buddha, and his entire golden body trembled rapidly, almost collapsing. "Grandma, this guy is really powerful, no wonder." Hai Tian was shocked and hurriedly tried to stabilize his golden body, but when he looked up at Xiaohua, the scene in front of him made him completely stunned. Because Xiaohua's figure had not transformed into a golden body before, at the moment when the wishful staff and the crescent moon shovel collided, Xiaohua's figure actually borrowed the force to fly upside down. Like a bullet, he rushed to the left side of Hai Tian in a hurry. Just as Hai Tian was looking at him, Xiaohua waved his arms. With a roar, his transcendence golden body appeared. Invisible star power surged into his transcendence golden body, and the transcendence golden body was instantly dozens of feet tall. It was more than twice the size of the old monk's Buddha statue. Moreover, the previously inconspicuous wishful staff had now turned into dozens of feet and was heavier than a mountain as it smashed towards the old monk. "Junior brother, don't worry, this old monk will help you." Hai Tian was surprised and the old monks were even more surprised. The old monk closest to the old monk hurriedly shouted and waved his hand. A Buddhist staff turned into a dragon and roared towards Xiaohua. Chapter 3808. PFFF. What shocked everyone was that Xiaohua suddenly opened his mouth and 9 sword beams shot out from his mouth. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived in front of the old monk. The strangest thing was that the 9 sword beams didn't seem to have any intention of blocking the monk's staff. Instead, they went around the monk's staff and turned into a huge sword that slashed towards the old monk. Boom. There was an even louder bang than before. The wishful steel staff hit the old monk's demon-subduing pestle. Not only was the demon-subduing pestle smashed into pieces, but the Buddha's light scattered in all directions. Even the huge wave of air blew the cultivators on the mountain ridge to the side. In particular, under the wishful steel staff, the old monk's golden Buddha statue was no match for it and instantly collapsed. How is this possible? Hai Tian was completely dumbfounded. Just now, Xiaohua's wishful steel staff did not seem so powerful. This is a Buddhist protector with upper 4th grade elemental energy. Of course, Hai Tian did not know that Xiaohua's staff had the power of the spiritual will hammer. Not to mention a Buddhist protector with upper 4th grade elemental energy, even a 5th grade elemental energy would not be able to escape from Xiaohua's attack. This was not the end of Hai Tian's nightmare. Keng. Another loud sound rang out. The staff hit Xiaohua, who did not want to dodge at all. Thousands of sparks splashed out from Xiaohua's body. The staff returned to its original form, but Xiaohua was not injured at all. How is this possible? Hai Tian groaned, feeling bad in his heart. King. Another loud sound rang out. The giant sword fell and the old monk's huge arm, which was not protected by a Buddhist weapon, was cut off. Blood flowed out from the severed arm like golden liquid. Not only that, the giant sword instantly turned into 9 stars and crazily stabbed at the gradually collapsing golden Buddha statue. It was more flexible than Xiaohua's control. Don't hurt my senior brother. The third old monk just flew over and roared. He raised an alms bowl and a huge suction force tried to suck the 9 stars away. Jia. A very strange voice appeared in the air. Old monk, your eyes dish, obediently come to the plate. Who is it? The old monk was shocked. He quickly scanned the area with his Buddhist sense, but at that moment, a 6-colored pillar of light suddenly appeared behind him and crashed into his golden Buddha statue at an incredibly fast speed. Boom! Right in front of Hai Tian's eyes, the Kunlun mirror's beam of light blasted a huge hole in the old monk's upper body. The old monk's golden Buddha statue collapsed rapidly. It seemed that he would not be able to survive. I've been tricked. Hai Tian suddenly came to a realization. Xiaohua first fought with him, using him as bait to force the 3 monks to come to his rescue. And the moment he was defeated, Xiaohua took out a method to stop the 3 monks. Under this attack, the 3 monks' lives were in danger. Let's go. Hai Tian made a prompt decision, urging his telekinesis to flee into the distance. Hai Tian, don't you think it's too late to leave now? Xiaohua smiled coldly. He tossed his right hand and muttered an incantation. The soul execution yuan light immediately flew out from the sword gourd. Seeing something with a nose and eyes emerge from the sword gourd, Hai Tian's consciousness immediately blurred. He hurriedly slapped his forehead. Swish. A Buddhist lotus that was several feet in size appeared along with the Buddhist light, blocking the spirit-slaying origin light. Fall. Looking at the Buddhist lotus, Xiaohua sneered. If he did not refine the soul execution yuan light from before, Hai Tian's protective Buddhist weapon might not be able to break through. However, after refining the essence of a strange beast's thigh, Xiaohua had full confidence that it could break through the Buddhist weapon. Sure enough, following Xiaohua's chanting of the incantation, Pu, the soul execution vital light rushed past the Buddha lotus, and the Buddha lotus shattered into pieces. The soul execution vital light precisely landed on Hai Tian's neck. The soul execution vital light flashed, and Hai Tian's head soared into the sky, and a mouthful of hot blood flew out. Namo Maitreya Buddha? After killing Hai Tian, Xiaohua did not hesitate. He looked at the collapsed golden Buddha statue of the old monk and said, as the son of Buddha, you should strictly abide by the rules and precepts. As a Buddhist protector, you should subdue the devil and become Buddha. You use the power of Buddha to oppress the common people, you should be destroyed. Immediately after, the divine will hammer fell from the sky. Boom. The Buddhist protector, who only had the strength of a 4th grade essence force, was smashed into a golden liquid. Ah! A blood-curdling scream came from not too far away. Under the 9 stars illuminating the sun, another old monk was also unable to escape from the Confucian cultivator Xiaohua's flying sword. Who knew how many holes were pierced through his body and he died on the spot? 3 monks and a prince were instantly killed by Xiaohua alone. Not only was this shocking, even the last monk who was fighting with Xiongyi and Li Xiang was flustered. 2 early nascent soul-stage Taoist cultivators were naturally not a match for him, a Buddhist protector who only had the strength of a 4th-grade essence force. However, it was not easy for him to kill the 2 of them. Especially since he had only fought a few rounds with the 2 of them, the outcome of the battle had already been decided. How could he remain calm? Unfortunately, before he could activate the Buddhist light to escape, the voice of the green-robed Xiaohua came from above his head again. Tiske, what a pity for a monk like Ming Quan. He actually didn't have a Saraira? The monk was shocked. He did not hesitate to smash the demon-subduing pestle into the sky. However, what was extremely strange was that, boom! Under his body, the Kunlun mirror's beam of light flew out and instantly pierced through his golden body from bottom to top. The monk died with his eyes wide open. He did not even see the appearance of his opponent. Haha. The green-robed Xiaohua laughed loudly. That strange laughter was everywhere in the mountain range. A simple diversion was actually used by him so skillfully. In the blink of an eye, he had killed 2 monks, which really made him excited. The laughter disappeared. Everyone still did not dare to believe it. That year, Xiaohua fought Lung Qinga in front of the Black Wind Mountain range. Although he also defeated many Confucian cultivators of the 4th level of origin power, that battle was so dangerous that Xiaohua himself was seriously injured. And today it was only a dozen years later. In the eyes of cultivators, that was not too long ago. Xiaohua actually so easily killed 5 people who were almost at the same cultivation level. What kind of divine ability was this? Not to mention how much stronger his magic power was, just this method alone was too strange. However, what made Qin Xiaoyao and the others feel familiar was that with a wave of Xiaohua's hand, the Qingkuan pouches on the 5 people's waists all fell into his hand. When he opened them to take a look, a familiar smile appeared on his face again. Master. Xiongyi looked at Xiaohua's divine ability, which was even more powerful than the one at the Jade Pavilion gathering. His eyes flashed with passion. He flew in front of Xiaohua and bowed. How should we deal with this now? Master, please tell us. Xiaohua stood in the air. He looked at Xiao Jian's corpse and then at Yuan Ye's pale face. His thoughts were in a mess. These 2 were the first people he had encountered after coming to the hidden immortal continent. They had been so good master and disciple back then, but now they had fallen to such a state. Part of this was due to Hai Tian of Jiasa. But if Xiao Jian did not have his own plans and his desire to kill Yuan Ye, how could he have ended up like this? Why does it have to end with killing each time? Xiaohua sighed. His gaze swept across the corpses of Hai Tian and the other Jiasa cultivators. These people were too deeply involved in the mortal world and could not compare to Ku Tuchuo of the single Liang. In the end, Xiaohua's gaze landed on the Chongling princess. At this time, the Chongling princess was as panicked as a quail. Her bloodless face had a pair of terrified eyes. She did not dare to meet Xiaohua's gaze and only secretly looked at Yuan Ye. Unfortunately, Yuan Ye had thrown his worldly ties to the ground with the sun. The Chongling princess' gaze was not as good as a leaf in the wind. Chongling, Xiaohua said coolly. This surprised the Chongling princess. She did not have a blaming tone. Daoist Xiao. The Chongling princess immediately realized and hurriedly knelt on the ground. She kowtowed and said, Jia was bewitched by Hai Tian of Jiasa. No need to say more. Xiaohua waved his sleeve and stopped the Chongling princess from speaking. He said, This old man heard your words just now. To say that this old man is disappointed is true. But this old man is also very happy. You allowed Yuan Ye to see human nature, and allowed him to take another step out of the Black Jade Dark Forest. This is better than anything else. Of course, the reasons you speak of are not this old man's original intentions. They are just your suspicions. You really are gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Since this old man promised you, I will give it to you. As he spoke, Xiaohua raised his hand and took out the imperial teacher's lot. He looked closely and grimaced. This old man risked my life to get the imperial teacher's lot. I really did not expect to fall to such a state. Taoistly, this Xiao really regrets not listening to your advice. Xiaohua looked at Li Xiang. Li Xiang looked at Xiaohua with narrowed eyes and said with a smile, Does Taoist really regret it? Of course not. Xiaohua laughed. If this old man did not go, how could I know so much of the truth? As he spoke, Xiaohua decisively threw the imperial teacher's lot to the Chongling princess and said, The imperial teacher's lot is here. Revive Jiang country yourself. Seeing the imperial teacher's lot land not far from her head, the Changling princess bit her lips and thought of something. However, what she was thinking was not important. Xiaohua waved his hand and said to Qin Xiaoyao, "Xiaoyao, all Fortune Gate disciples return to Black Wind Ridge. No one is allowed to stay in Jiang country." "Yes, old master." Qin Xiaoyao looked coldly at Lu Bingjin and shouted, "Disciples, pass on old master's orders. We will return to Black Wind Ridge with old master." "Yes." The group of disciples raised their eyebrows and exhaled in relief. Then they scattered in all directions. Seeing the disciples leave, Qin Xiaoyao supported Yuanya and flew into the air. He bowed and said, "Disciple greets old master." "And Xiaoyao, you did well." Xiaohua smiled and said, "You are righteous in front of right and wrong, far better than before." "Disciple does not deserve praise." Qin Xiaoyao hurriedly smiled. "It is all disciples' fault for not taking care of Yuanya and Xiao Jian. This is not your fault." Xiaohua waved his hand. "How can you see the rainbow without going through the wind and rain? If not for today's matter, how could Yuanya enter this old man's sect?" Ah! Yuanya was really disheartened. Hearing Xiaohua's words, he was shocked. "Senior Xiao, what did you say?" Chapter 3809. Yuanya's eyes heated up and he was about to kneel in the air. Unfortunately, he was injured. After moving a few times, his mouth twitched in pain. However, as stubborn as Yuanya was, he still knelt there with difficulty and kowtowed 9 times in the air. "And get up." Xiaohua was very satisfied. He raised his hand and said, "I did not expect your talent to be good. Who taught you this flying skill?" "Lugu," Yuanya did not dare to hide and hurriedly explained. "He was afraid this disciple would be injured in front of the 2 armies, so he secretly taught me." "Very good." Xiaohua nodded. With a wave of his hand, the Pegasus and flying carriage landed in the air. He said, "Return to Black Wind Ridge with this old man." "Yes." Yuanya and Qin Xiaoyao agreed. When Xiaohua and the others got on the flying carriage, the 2 also got on respectfully. The Pegasus raised its head and neighed. A milky white light streaked across the sky and quickly disappeared into the horizon. "Whoa!" The Changling princess looked at the deathly silent imperial tutor park, and then looked at the dazed Lu Bingjin and the others, and the Dao soldiers she had trained. Suddenly, she collapsed to the ground as though her bones had been pulled out. She started to cry bitterly. The tears fell on the ground, but they disappeared in an instant. It was very similar to what the Changling princess had lost in half a day. Everything was gained and lost in an instant. The Pegasus pulled the flying carriage out of Jiang country. After flying for a while, Xiongyi said in a low voice, "Master, wait a moment. This disciple has something to report to Master." "What is it?" Xiaohua asked curiously. "Master, just follow this disciple." Xiongyi did not say more. He flew down from the flying carriage and flew to a place outside the capital of Jiang country. Xiaohua was also surprised and followed Xiongyi. A short while later, a large manor appeared in front of the 2. Xiaohua's consciousness swept over, and a surprised expression appeared on his face. He said curiously, "Xiongyi, why are there so many boys? There must be tens of thousands?" "Yes, master." Xiongyi said with a smile. "Master has orders, how can Qin Xiaoyao and the others dare to neglect?" Naturally, they searched everywhere. There are many orphans in the poor villages near Yu province. The disciples did not care about the cost and scattered large amounts of silver. Naturally, they brought many boys. Actually, from what this disciple sees, half of them are choosing boys for master, and the other half are doing good deeds. Earlier, these boys were left behind at Black Wind Ridge. When I came here, I felt that it was inappropriate. Those demons, cough cough. To tell the truth, I didn't dare to trust them, so I sent them here. Later, Master Sun Kong and Senior Zhang Daoren also sent boys over, and I gathered them here. I've also taken the time to take a look at these child disciples. The ones sent by exalted Sun Kong and Senior Zhang Daoren are indeed top-notch talents. The disciples we're looking for are much worse. It doesn't matter. Regardless of their aptitude, all of them are now my Fortune Gates disciples." Xiaohua laughed heartily as he said, "Gather all these children, this old man will take them with the nation weapon." "Yes, master." Xiongyi was the first to descend. He ordered the Fortune Gate disciples in the manor to gather the 10,000 children together. Xiaohua pretended to take out the mountain river seal and sent these children into his space. Seeing so many children appear in his space, the green-robed Xiaohua was grinning from ear to ear. With a wave of his hand, he sent these children into an illusion inside the space. It seemed like he was going to do something big. On the flying carriage, the worry on Li Xiang's face had disappeared, as if he had made a decision in his heart. He only sat there with his eyes closed and didn't say anything. As for Yuan Ye, he was heavily injured and had already fallen asleep. Qin Xiaoyao frowned. He looked at the clouds below the flying carriage as if he was thinking about something. After all, what happened today was too strange. Although Qin Xiaoyao had always been in the Jiang country, and even followed Xiao Jian and the others to recover the Jiang country in the palace of the Jiang country, he had never thought that things would develop to this point. Not long after, Xiao Hua and Xiong Yi turned back and drove the flying carriage back to Black Wind Ridge. Neither of them said anything, so Li Xiang and Qin Xiaoyao naturally did not ask. After Xiao Hua and the others returned to the Black Wind Ridge, the Fortune Gate's disciples also returned from Jiang country, Copper Pillar country and even other places. None of them were reluctant to leave Jiang country. Whether it was Lu Yi or the Black Bear spirit, both of them were bewildered. When they saw Yuan Ye's injuries and heard Qin Xiaoyao's description, all of them were filled with righteous indignation. Thinking about how much effort they had put into reviving Jiang country, yet in the end this was the result, anyone would be furious. However, Lu Yi was glad that the bitter Yuan Ye had escaped from Xiao Jian's control and had finally entered his master's tutelage. This was a great fortune amidst all the unhappiness. The matter of the Fortune Gate disciples returning to Black Wind Ridge naturally could not be hidden from Shui Mingzi Ao Zhantian and the others. When they found out the reason, their anxious hearts calmed down, and they waited for Xiao Hua's decision. On the other hand, Xiao Hua only showed his face once in his cultivation cave after returning to Black Wind Ridge, then he went into seclusion. No one knew what he was doing. Only Xiong Yi was in charge of the Black Wind Ridge's affairs. What could Xiao Hua do in seclusion? Naturally, it was to help green-robed Xiao Hua establish a sect in the space. When Jade Archive Xiao Hua entered the space, he saw green-robed Xiao Hua with his hands behind his back. He proudly stood in the sky. Below him was an abnormally tall mountain range. Jade Archive Xiao Hua had arranged for more than 10,000 children to settle down on this mountain range. Layers of lightning flashed around green-robed Xiao Hua's body, and an indescribable fluctuation rippled out from his body. The lightning-devouring bead that Xiao Hua had stored in the space had long been swallowed into his stomach. While he was nourishing the lightning-devouring bead with his space force, he was also carefully comprehending the changes in the lightning inside the lightning-devouring bead. Xiao Hua's lightning escape technique had improved by leaps and bounds due to his comprehension of the lightning-devouring bead. Seeing Jade Archive Xiao Hua enter, green-robed Xiao Hua hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Fellow Taoist is here, quickly, give I some advice." Hee. Seeing this, Jade Archive Xiao Hua chuckled. That's right, although green-robed Xiao Hua was ambitious to establish his own force, there would be many problems if he really wanted to do it. After all, green-robed Xiao Hua's divine ability was not small, but he knew very little about establishing a sect just like Xiao Hua. Moreover, other than the 10 great primordial spirits, Xiao Hua would not divulge the secret of the space to anyone else. Thus Xiao Hua could only do it himself. Fortunately, in the space, other than Jade Archive Xiao Hua and green-robed Xiao Hua, Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua was also quietly thinking about something. He volunteered himself to come out, glorifying it as training. Jade Archive Xiao Hua naturally knew that Confucian cultivators had to train in the hidden immortal continent before reaching the 5th grade of elemental energy. Understanding the arts and etiquette and even managing a region, this had an extremely subtle effect on Confucian cultivators' understanding of the noble qi. However, the problem was that Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua's 5 Qis unification seemed to be different from ordinary Confucian cultivators. He shouldn't need any training, right? When Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua haggled with green-robed Xiao Hua, Jade Archive Xiao Hua already understood that Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua also wanted to get a share of the profits from these 10,000-plus children. Seeing Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua's eagerness to give it a try, Jade Archive Xiao Hua agreed very much. After all, Confucian cultivators had a large number of ancient books and scrolls. Among them were academies, sects, and even the constitution of a country. The 2 primordial spirits only needed to follow these diagrams to establish a sect. However, these children were all young. Jade Archive Xiao Hua didn't know what this so-called sect would look like in the hands of green-robed Xiao Hua and Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua. However, Jade Archive Xiao Hua didn't care about this. Within the space, everything was under his control. He simply let the 2 primordial spirits pair up. Jade Archive Xiao Hua's figure landed on the huge white bones below the immortal beheading stage. Xiao Hua obtained an extremely large number of white bones on the altar of the legacy realm. Now these white bones were all stably gathered together, forming a huge human figure. However, this human figure was very strange. It actually had 3 heads and 6 arms. It's really strange. Could it be that these are the skeletons of 3 people? Jade Archive Xiao Hua pinched his chin and looked at the white bones that were being tempered under the lightning water. Xiao Lei's body flashed with lightning as he lay among the white bones in a deep sleep. He couldn't help but think to himself. But if it's the skeletons of 3 people, these broken bones are tightly knit together without any extra parts. Moreover, in the lightning water, the bone spurs between these white bones are gradually healing. It must be a giant with 3 heads and 6 arms. Oh no, it's still missing a piece. Jade Archive Xiao Hua's gaze swept over. His figure swayed and he appeared on top of the giant's head. Sure enough, he saw that the top of the giant's head was missing a 1-foot square triangular white bone. This triangular gap was very neat, as if it was pierced by an extremely sharp weapon. Damn, is this the legendary failure at the last hurdle? Jade Archive Xiao Hua's previous joy was extinguished by more than half. However, he also knew that this missing piece of white bone was certainly not in the legacy realm. He was afraid that it was the same as the other white bones he obtained, lost in a different place. Let's leave it to fate. Jade Archive Xiao Hua thought for a moment and shook his head. I still have important things to do. When Xiao Hua's mind left the space, he waved his hand and took out the Kunlun mirror, releasing Xian Songzi's nascent soul. Xian Songzi didn't dare to be negligent and hastily bowed to greet him. Xiao Hua smiled and helped the little Xian Songzi up. He asked, "Is there anything wrong with fellow Taoist's current cultivation?" Xian Songzi said with a smile, "I'll let Taoists know that there are many twists and turns in the cultivation of scattered nascent soul. Many of them are not what I have experienced before. Many times even I am not sure. Moreover, I don't have a physical body, so I feel that there are many restrictions in comprehending cultivation methods." Xiao Hua thought for a moment and took out a new spiritual intelligence derived from the northern underworld breath. He smiled and said, "Is fellow Taoist talking about this?" What is this?" Xian Songzi looked at this somewhat strange thing. He didn't know what it was and looked at Xiao Hua in bewilderment. "This is the spiritual intelligence derived from fellow Taoist's ink cloud pupil." This is the spiritual intelligence derived? How did Taoist know? Xian Songzi was in disbelief. After all, there was only a name and no image. Who knew which one was the spiritual intelligence derived? Chapter 38:10. If I say so, then so be it. Xiao Hua smiled. I called you out just to ask you, are you going to take it now? Or do you want to take it later? I also want to take it. But without Renjing, what's the use of taking it now? Xian Songzi was very dejected. Xiao Hua smiled again and took out the mother-child spirit fruit. Fellow Taoist, look at what this is. This is Renjing? Xian Songzi was stunned. Looking at the Renjing that looked exactly like a pregnant human, how could he not know? Taoist. After Xian Songzi woke up, he hurriedly bowed. Taoist has given me a new life. I don't know how to thank Taoist. There's no need for this. Xiao Hua hurriedly helped Xian Songzi up. You and I were originally fated. Saving you was a small matter for me. Helping you now is also beneficial to me. This matter is easy for Taoist, but for me, it's a huge matter. Xian Songzi sighed. Back then, other than my master, speaking up to hear, Xian Songzi's eyes lit up. Looking at Xiao Hua, he respectfully bowed on the ground and said, Disciple Xian Songzi wishes to become master's disciple. Would master accept disciple as disciple? Xiao Hua was a little surprised. He originally wanted to discuss with Xian Songzi how to use Renjing and derive spirit wisdom so that he could let the 100 or so nascent souls in his dantian cultivate. Who would have thought that Xian Songzi would actually do something like this? Taoist, this nascent soul cultivation method was originally taught to me by Taoist. What's the difference between this and teaching? Moreover, I'm now a lonely soul. Without Taoist protection, I wouldn't be able to survive. Being able to become Taoist disciple is actually my fortune. Xian Songzi kowtowed. Taoist, please have mercy. Xiao Hua pondered a bit. He knew that Xian Songzi was right. Although his heart was magnanimous, what would Xian Songzi think? This was also a heart demon and karma. Only by accepting this karma could he truly help Xian Songzi. Okay. Xiao Hua nodded. Xian Songzi was overjoyed. Just as he was about to kowtow, Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand. Wait a moment. Yes, master. Xian Songzi was amazed, But when Xiaohua released Master Taoist Jingting's nascent soul, Xian Songzi understood. Spiritual Master Jingting's nascent soul was protected by the green-robed Xiaohua in the Lianyao flask, so his nascent soul wasn't obliterated. Now that he had rested for a few years, he had recovered a little. Now that he appeared in front of Xiaohua, although he knew that he had escaped death, his little face was filled with despair just like Xian Songzi. Master Taoist Jingting? Xiaohua points his finger and says, "You were fated to meet this Xiao at the Jade Pavilion conference, and you were even implicated by this Xiao inside the formation. Now that you've lost your physical body and only have your nascent soul left, this Xiao is willing to bear this karma for you. Are you willing?" Taoist Master Xiao. Taoist Master Jingting looks at the Yuanying kneeling in front of him, somewhat puzzled. What if I'm willing? What if I'm not? Hihi Xian Songzi, get up and break it down with Reverend Jingting. Xiaohua didn't say much and let Xian Songzi explain to Master Taoist Jingting. Seeing Master Taoist Jingting like this, Xian Songzi's heart was filled with sympathy. This was the so-called sympathy for fellow sufferers. In a moment, he had already explained the cause of the matter clearly. Although Master Taoist Jingting's reaction was slow and his luck wasn't good, his mind wasn't inferior to Xian Songzi's. At this time, how could he not know that there was an unprecedented road in front of him? Disciple Master Taoist Jingting is willing to become Master Taoist's disciple. Master Taoist Jingting knelt in front of Xiaohua with Xian Songzi. Good. Xiaohua nods. Although this old man has some knowledge about the cultivation method of scattering nascent soul, after all, I can't often teach it to you. Now that the two of you are cultivating together, we can exchange knowledge and discuss it with each other. Yes, disciple understands. Xian Songzi and Master Taoist Jingting understood Xiaohua's painstaking efforts. The two of them kowtowed together 9 times, which could be considered as becoming Master Taoist. Alright, since you've become Master Taoist Jingting's disciple, Master Taoist Jingting? Xiaohua says with a smile, Master will first teach you the cultivation method of scattering nascent soul. Master, just call disciple Jingting. Taoist Jingting says respectfully. Good. After saying that, a crystal thread as bright as a crescent moon appears between Xiaohua's eyebrows and enters between Master Taoist Jingting's eyebrows. Boom. Master Taoist Jingting feels as if his mind is being bombarded by a huge object. Countless words and understandings fall into his mind. Master Taoist Jingting doesn't dare to be negligent. He immediately sits there cross-legged and closes his eyes to comprehend. Xiaohua takes back the soul thread and looks at Xian Songzi beside him. He says with a smile, "This old man still has some understandings. I won't teach them to you for now. After Jingting finishes comprehending, you can discuss with him how to take Renjing and develop spiritual wisdom." Yes, Master. Xian Songzi restrains the ecstasy in his heart and answers with a bow. Xiaohua walks out of the quiet room. Lu Yi, who is guarding the door, hurriedly bows and says, "Greetings, Master. And how is Yuanya?" Xiaohua is somewhat worried about Yuanya, who almost died. Brother Ye is fine. After taking Master's miraculous spirit pill, his injuries are already fine. Lu Yi obediently answers, "It's just that he was hit hard by Diao Wu's matter and can't come back to his senses for a while." Just now, disciple heard from Wang Yuanfei that Brother Ye was called by his mother to roast some meat for him to eat. That's right. Xiaohua nods. Although Yuanfei's mother doesn't have much experience, she is Yuan Ye's teacher in the matters between men and women. It's not bad to listen to more advice. If you see Yuan Ye, ask him if he has thought it through. If he has, then come see me. Yes. Lu Yi bows and answers. Also, Senior Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian came to find Master a few times. It seems like they have some matters to discuss. Are the two of them together? Or did they come separately? Xiaohua sits on the brocade chair and asks with interest. The two of them came separately. Invite fellow Shui Mingzi over. Xiaohua says after thinking for a while. Louis goes out. Not long after, Shui Mingzi enters the cave. Xiaohua invites him to take a seat. The two of them exchange greetings for a while. Shui Mingzi says with a smile, "I came to find Taoist Xiao because I have a private matter to discuss with fellow Taoist." "Oh, fellow Taoist, please speak." Seeing that Shui Mingzi didn't mention leaving the Black Wind Ridge and instead talked about private matters, Xiaohua unconsciously raises his eyebrows. Previously, I also told Taoist that the situation in the hidden immortal continent is very delicate. The changes in the Yaotai Mountain will probably anger the Immortal Palace. We Taoist cultivators who survive the Yaotai Mountain will have to think about how to deal with it. Shui Mingzi seems to have thought about it long ago. He quickly explains, for a shrinking force like the Black Wind Ridge, not coming out is one way. Another way is to leave the hidden immortal continent to temporarily avoid the limelight. I am not talented, but I have some dealings with the Demon King of the ancient Bell Mountain in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, so I want to temporarily avoid this place. I saw that Taoist Xiao treats Black Bear, White Lion and Golden Eagle very well. I presume that you don't discriminate against Demon Kings, so I want to invite Taoist Xiao to come with me. Hee hee. Xiaohua smiles. Fellow Shui Mingzi, it can't be that simple, right? Is there something else? Of course. If it were that simple, I wouldn't have come here so seriously. Shui Mingzi smiles mysteriously. 50 years later, near the ancient Bell Mountain, there will be a grand event in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. As for what it is exactly, I can't reveal it at this time. If Taoist Xiao is interested, why don't we take this opportunity to go together? With Taoist Xiao's skills, you will definitely gain something. I see. Xiaohua thinks to himself. That day Ao Zhantian said that Shui Mingzi has some background. This must be the reason. He, a Taoist cultivator, can actually participate in the grand event of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. Maybe he also has the bloodline of the demon race. This grand event also depends on one's skills. But now, do I still need to go to the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm? Thinking of this, Xiaohua smiles. I thank fellow Shui Mingzi for thinking so highly of me. However, this matter will take at least 50 years. There is still some time until now. I don't want to leave so early. 50 years is just the blink of an eye. Shui Mingzi persuades, now is a sensitive time for Confucian cultivators. Wouldn't it be better for fellow Taoists to take this opportunity to get rid of the trouble? Let me think about it. Xiaohua doesn't agree. Shui Mingzi doesn't insist. He takes out the jade eye and the token and gives it to Xiaohua, saying, this is the location of the ancient Bell Mountain and my token. If Taoist Xiao goes and I'm not there, just show the token and the Demon King will definitely treat you with respect. Okay. Xiaohua takes it and says, if I have nothing to do, I will definitely go. Okay, I will wait for Taoist Xiao's arrival. Shui Mingzi stands up and leaves. After Xiaohua stands up and sends him off, he asks Lu Yi to invite Ao Zhantian. He looks at the jade eye and the token in his hand with a smile and puts them away. He just came back from the Misty Mountain Maze and still has many things to learn. How can he have the time to go to the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm? Not long after Ao Zhantian also arrives. Unlike Shui Mingzi, Ao Zhantian's first sentence is, Taoist Xiao, did Shui Mingzi find Taoist Xiao? Xiaohua smiles. The Black Wind Ridge is only so big. Ao Zhantian will know whether Shui Mingzi came or not with just a sweep of his divine sense, so there is no need for him to hide. After Xiaohua slightly nods, Ao Zhantian says, previously, I vaguely knew that fellow Taoist Shui Mingzi's origin is not simple, but I didn't expect him to be related to the Demon King of the ancient Bell Mountain. His origin is not small. Xiaohua asks curiously, does the Demon King of the ancient Bell Mountain have a special origin? Taoist Xiao lives in the Yu province, which is east of the hidden immortal continent, so you might not know much about the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. The Demon King of the ancient Bell Mountain. I heard that he is the descendant of a great sage in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. Do you think Shui Mingzi's origin is powerful? Great sage. Xiaohua nodded. This is a senior of the 9th grade of origin power. No wonder. It's not just the 9th grade of origin power. Ao Zhantian sighs. A great sage is a supreme being who can tear apart space and shatter the void at any time. It's not something a Confucian scholar can compare to. What? Fellow Taoist Ao was also invited by fellow Taoist Shui Mingzi? Xiaohua asks with a smile. Chapter 38:11. Ao Zhantian nodded with a smile. Yes, Shui Mingzi had discussed this with me before. However, I had an important matter to attend to, so I didn't agree to his request. Today I came here to discuss this matter with Taoist Master. Xiaohua was stunned. What do you want to discuss with me? Ao Zhantian pondered for a moment and sent a voice transmission. Do you know about Dragon Island? Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean by that? Which cultivator on the hidden immortal continent doesn't know about Dragon Island? If you have the opportunity to go to Dragon Island, would you be willing? Ao Zhantian stared at Xiaohua's face as if he wanted to see through his true thoughts. If Xiaohua hadn't met Ao Zhantian, he would have been very interested in Ao Zhantian's suggestion. However, it was clear that Ao Zhantian's so-called opportunity wouldn't be as good as Ao Zhantian's. Xiaohua couldn't help but hesitate. After thinking for a moment, Xiaohua asked in a low voice, "Can you tell me the reason behind this matter?" "All right." Ao Zhantian saw Xiaohua's hesitation and had a bad feeling. After thinking for a moment, he decided to tell him everything. After Ao Zhantian finished explaining everything, Xiaohua stroked his chin and fell into deep thought. The reason why Ao Zhantian's surname was Ao was because there was an additional person in his surname compared to the Ao of the Dragon Palace. This meant that he was a distant relative of the Dragon Palace's bloodline. This was also what Xiaohua had seen at the Jade Pavilion conference. Ao Zhantian had the Crimson Dragon bloodline and could use the True Spirit avatar. Of course, Ao Zhantian's bloodline existed in both the human and demon races. The Dragon Palace didn't really care about them. However, these demons and humans were all descendants of the dragon bloodline. Therefore, every 100 years the Dragon Palace would hold a selection ceremony to select the purer and more powerful disciples to enter Dragon Island. However, Ao Zhantian and the other descendants of the dragon bloodline only had 3 chances. If they couldn't set foot on Dragon Island after 3 chances, they would lose the right to enter Dragon Island. The Dragon Island was a mysterious place. It was as famous as the Immortal Palace, the Thunder Temple, and the Great Sage Hall. There were countless treasures on the island. If an ordinary cultivator could obtain even one of them, they would be able to take a huge step forward in their cultivation. Although this Dragon Island's training area wasn't the core of the Dragon Island, in order to obtain this opportunity, these descendants with the dragon's bloodline would fight until their heads bled every time. And what made them satisfied was that as long as they could survive the Dragon Island, without exception, they would reap great rewards. There had never been an exception. Coincidentally, 10 years later, it would be the time for the 100-year selection. Ao Zhantian had already participated in the selection ceremony twice, and he had failed to obtain the right to enter the Dragon Island. This was his last chance. Moreover, if Ao Zhantian passed the selection ceremony, even if he didn't gain anything from the Dragon Island, his name would be recorded in the register of the Dragon Palace. Even if he reached the out-of-aperture stage in the future, the Immortal Palace wouldn't force him too much out of consideration for the Dragon Palace. Thus, Ao Zhantian placed great importance on this selection, which was why he had come to ask Xiaohua for help. Xiaohua thought for a moment and thought to himself, I can use Ao Zhan to enter the Dragon Island, but the problem is whether Ao Qian can be rescued. Even if Ao Qian is rescued, the East Sea Dragon Palace will definitely look for the culprit behind Ao Qian's assassination. In that case they will inevitably look for me. I have a history with the Heavenly Cave River, and I know the ins and outs of the Dragon Island. If I go to Ao Zhan, not only will he betray me, but the people of the Dragon Palace will also interrogate me. Wouldn't I be walking right into their trap? Rather than taking that risk, I might as well follow Ao Zhantian. Either way, there are humans and demons here, and it'll be easier to avoid them. Taoist Ao? Xiaohua asked. This selection is an opportunity for your dragon bloodline descendants. What does it have to do with me? Of course it has to do with me. Ao Zhantian laughed. I can bring my guards to participate in the selection. This is the rule of the Dragon Palace. Once I pass the selection, my guards can also follow me to the Dragon Island. Damn it, you're a nascent soul cultivator of the Tao Gate, why do you need guards? Xiaohua asked, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Ao Zhantian shrugged and replied, I have no choice, this is the custom of the Dragon Palace. If the descendants of the Dragon Palace don't bring guards, then they're not descendants of the Dragon Palace. Even if I don't bring guards, those arrogant demons and Confucian cultivators will. And I understand. Xiaohua nodded. But where will the selection be held this time? The North Sea Dragon Palace is hosting the selection this time. Ao Zhantian explained. As for where it is, we'll only know when we arrive at the designated place. The North Sea Dragon Palace. Xiaohua smiled. As long as it wasn't the East Sea Dragon Palace or the West Sea Dragon Palace, Xiaohua was willing to go. All right. Xiaohua nodded. If that's the case, I'll go with you and try my luck. Good. Ao Zhantian clapped. I knew that Taoist Master Xiao would definitely lend me a hand. Now I'll go with you. Ah? So soon? Xiaohua was a little surprised. Why don't we hurry up? Ao Zhantian asked curiously. The hidden immortal continent is currently in a dangerous situation. Who knows when the heavenly immortal palace will send their fury down? If we rush to the North Sea Dragon Palace's territory now, even if the heavenly immortal palace wants to vent their anger on us, they won't be able to do anything to us. Besides, I've already prepared a lot for this selection. Fellow Taoist doesn't need to prepare anything. You just need to follow me. Although Xiaohua knew that Ao Zhantian and Shui Mingzi were right, he really couldn't leave. After thinking for a moment, Xiaohua smiled. How about this? Fellow Taoist Ao, you tell me the designated place of the North Sea Dragon Palace and I promise to arrive in 10 years. How about that? Oh, alright. It seems like that's the only way. Seeing that Xiaohua had already made up his mind, Ao Zhantian didn't force him. Just like Shui Mingzi, he took out his own token and a jade eye ring and handed them to Xiaohua before turning to leave. However, before Ao Zhantian left, he didn't forget to turn back and say, also, Taoist Master Xiao, we've gathered here for too long. Perhaps we've already attracted the attention of the Confucian cultivators. If we fall into the heavenly immortal palace's ears, it will definitely be detrimental to the Black Wind Ridge. You should prepare early. And I understand. I'll have to trouble fellow Taoists to inform the other fellow Taoists that I'll be holding a farewell banquet tomorrow morning and invite all fellow Taoists to attend. Xiaohua had already thought of a plan. The last stone in Ao Zhantian's heart was lifted and he left with a smile. There was no need to mention the farewell banquet. Xiaohua raised his cup and the other cultivators also raised their cups. According to the blood oath, as long as Xiaohua needed them for 1,000 years, they would be at his beck and call. Of course, other than the early nascent soul cultivator Royal Highness Lan, there were many golden core cultivators who decided to stay in the Black Wind Ridge after seeing how prosperous the Fortune Gate was. After the banquet, the group of cultivators bid farewell and flew out in batches. However, there were too many Taoist cultivators working for Xiaohua. In order not to attract the attention of the Confucian cultivators, these cultivators flew for an entire day before gradually dispersing. Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian were the last to leave the capital star formation. There was no one else in the Black Wind Ridge anymore. Xiaohua turned around and walked into his cave. Xiaohua had just sat down in his cave when Royal Highness Lan came in with dozens of golden core cultivators. As soon as Royal Highness Lan entered the cave, he immediately bowed and said, Taoist Master Xiao, I have chatted with fellow Taoist Xiong a few times in the past few days. Although fellow Taoist Xiong did not tell me too much, I already know quite a bit about what happened in the country of Jiang. Now that I've reached a bottleneck in my cultivation, I'm especially worried about my lifespan. Since I've already made a blood oath to serve Taoist for 500 years, I don't have much time to squander after these 500 years. Rather than that, why don't I just become Taoist's disciple and receive your guidance? Junior is also willing to become Taoist Zhao's disciple. About 20 golden core cultivators bowed and said in unison. Xiaohua looked at Royal Highness Lan and thought inwardly. Royal Highness Lan was also saved by him during the Jadestage conference. This cultivator's shrewdness was above Xiong Yi's, and his ability to judge the situation was even better than Xiong Yi's. In the short few years he had been in the Black Wind Ridge, he had seen a lot of things such as the Origin Stone Mine, the Capital Star Formation, and the battle between Jiang Country and Copper Pillar Country. However, Xiaohua looked at these cultivators and said solemnly, Royal Highness Lan, if it was in the past, I would welcome you to become my disciple. After all, you can gather the power of the Tao sect and protect our Tao sect from the influence of Confucian cultivators. But now that the Jadestage Mountain has changed, if you become my disciple you might be implicated. Are you still willing? Haha, Taoist Xiao is overthinking. Royal Highness Lan laughed and said, I have thought about it over these years. I have suffered a lot in order to reach the nascent soul realm. I have also suffered a lot under the pressure of Confucian cultivators. If Taoist Xiao hadn't saved me during the Jadestage conference, I would have died long ago. People who have died once can see things that ordinary cultivators can't compare to. Taoist Zhao's mind is broad and his magic power is boundless. If I can receive Taoist Zhao's guidance, not only can my cultivation improve, I can also hide from Confucian cultivators under Taoist Zhao's protection. Why wouldn't I be happy? This disciple is willing to become Taoist Zhao's disciple. Royal Highness Lan knelt on the ground. The 20 golden core disciples also knelt and shouted, Junior is also willing to become Taoist Zhao's disciple. Good. Xiaohua nodded. Just as he was about to speak, he heard someone call out from outside the cave, Wait! Oh! Xiaohua was stunned and raised his head to look. He saw Li Xiang rushing into the cave with dozens of his disciples behind him. Li Xiang entered the cave and immediately knelt beside Royal Highness Lan and said anxiously, Taoist Xiao, I am also willing to enter the Fortune Gate. Chapter 38:12. We juniors are also willing to become your disciples. Li Xiang's disciples said, and naturally knelt beside the 20 Jindan disciples. Looking at the liveliness in the cave, Xiaohua smiled slightly, stood up and said, "Fellow Taoist Li, get up quickly, what are you singing now?" "A Taoist Xiao." Li Xiang did not get up but lowered his head and sighed. "Speaking of which, I, Xiongyi, and this fellow Taoist have all received great kindness from Taoist. Perhaps one of them was saved, but I, along with all my disciples, were saved from the death prison by Taoist. And I have been with Taoist Xiao the longest. Normally speaking, I should have said it long ago. However, Taoist must have known long ago that I did not get along well with the previous imperial tutor of Jiang country, Qin Haoyue. I have lingering fears about this. Especially when Taoist wanted to go to Yaotai Mountain, I did my best to stop him. In reality, I also had selfish motives. I knew that if Taoist went, if he died, if he returned, it would not be the ending I wanted. If Taoist took the imperial tutor's lot, he would definitely fall into the mortal world, and his mind would definitely be affected. I do not want to repeat the same mistake. So after Xiongyi returned, even though fellow Taoist Xiong did not say anything, I already understood that Taoist Xiao most likely already received the imperial tutor's lot, and the development of the matter has already fallen in a direction I do not want to see. So I simply did not care about the matters of Black Wind Ridge, and handed them all to fellow Taoist Xiong. As for the peculiarities that fellow Taoist Xiong found, I did not detect them at all. I am far inferior to fellow Taoist Xiong in this regard. This is also one of the reasons why I had the thought of leaving. Before Taoist returned, I had already made a decision. If there is a chance, I will bid farewell to Taoist. However, Taoist's performance in Jiang country really exceeded my expectations. Not only did Taoist save me again, you also generously gave the imperial tutor's lot to the Changling princess. At this moment, I understand that Taoist is going to the Yaotai conference for that promise, and not just to establish a country. Taoist is not the Taoist I thought. Taoist should go to the Yaotai conference. A cultivator like Taoist who treats promises as gold, is that not what I want to follow? At this point, Li Xiang bowed down again and said, "Therefore, I would like to ask Taoist to allow this disciple to become Taoist's disciple. We are all willing to become your disciples and listen to your teachings." Dozens of golden core cultivators shouted in unison. Their voices were rather majestic. Xiaohua smiled and waved his hand. "Good, since everyone has come under this old man's tutelage, then, on behalf of my Fortune Gate disciples, this old man welcomes everyone. Thank you, Tao Master." The cultivators were overjoyed and kowtowed as they entered the Fortune Gate. "Today is another joyous day, looks like this old man will have to hold a big banquet again." Xiaohua sat down and laughed heartily, then ordered, "Black Bear, quickly go and prepare." "Yes, I understand." The Black Bear spirit was overjoyed when he saw so many Golden Core Realm cultivators joining the Fortune Gate. He hurriedly ran out. "Xiongyi, Li Xiang, Prince Lan stay behind. The other disciples go back and rest first." Xiaohua instructed again with the bearing of a sect leader. "Yes." All the Golden Core Realm and Foundation Establishment Realm disciples answered in unison and walked out one after another. Only Lu Yi, Fu Jiwen, and Wang Yifei stood in front of Xiaohua without moving. "Lu Yi, prepare a seat for the 3 senior brothers." Xiaohua instructed. "Yes, master." Lu Yi's expression did not change. He glanced at Fu Jiwen and Wang Yifei, then the 3 of them took out 3 chairs from the side and placed them beside the 3 nascent soul realm cultivators. Xiaohua smiled and said, "Senior brothers, please sit." "Many thanks, junior brothers." Xiongyi and the others knew that these 3 were the disciples that Xiaohua had chosen. Although their cultivations were still shallow, their future was immeasurable, so they did not dare to neglect them. When the 3 nascent soul realm disciples were seated, Xiaohua smiled and said, "You all have seen it. Previously, this old man only wanted to accept a few disciples to train. The so-called founding of a sect was not something that I had thought of, but now, even you 3 nascent soul realm cultivators have come under this old man's tutelage. This lineup has exceeded this old man's expectations. Of course, to tell you the truth, this old man has no problem guiding your cultivation. This old man's strength is far beyond your imagination." This. Xiongyi, Li Xiang and Prince Lan all sucked in a breath of cold air. They looked at each other with astonishment in their eyes. After all, in their eyes, the strength that Xiaohua had shown was already extremely shocking. They had never imagined that Xiaohua's far beyond your imagination would be like, Loki. Xiaohua smiled and said, "If you all had not come under this old man's tutelage, this old man would not have told you." "Yes, this disciple understands." Xiong-yi and the others smiled and nodded. Cultivation techniques, medicinal pills, magic treasures. Wait. You all don't need to think about it, this old man has confidence in all of these. Xiao Hua said again, however this old man does not have much experience in establishing a sect. Now that my fortune gate has more disciples, these are all things that you all need to consider. Yes, in the space, although the green-robed Xiao Hua and the scholarly cultivator Xiao Hua were establishing a sect, they were close to gods in the space. Moreover, there were more than 10,000 disciples that they could do whatever they wanted. But in the Black Wind Ridge it was different. Not to mention the 3 nascent soul cultivators, even those golden core disciples, which one of them had not lived for hundreds of years, experienced the ways of the world and experienced all kinds of hardships. If there were no rules for establishing a sect, before the fortune gate was established, wouldn't the people's hearts have already scattered? Master, please rest assured. Xiong-yi smiled and said, before Master returned, this disciple had already considered this matter. Although this disciple has not reported to Master, nor has this disciple discussed with the 2 senior brothers, this disciple has already formed a constitution. Master, please take a look. Saying this, Xiong-yi took out a jade eye ring and handed it to Xiao Hua. Oh, Xiong-yi will enter under this old man's tutelage first as a senior brother. Xiao Hua came to his senses and said to the 3 people, Li Xiang will enter last as a junior brother. Yes, this disciple understands. The 3 of them were all nascent soul cultivators and their cultivations were very similar. In fact, it didn't matter who was the senior brother or junior brother. The 3 of them looked at each other and answered with a smile. Xiao Hua took the jade eye ring and glanced at it, then handed it to Prince Lan and said, you 2 also take a look. Prince Lan and Li Xiang looked at the jade eye ring then at each other. Prince Lan smiled and said, senior brother Xiong's constitution is very detailed, this disciple has nothing to say. Xiong-yi's constitution contains my Black Wind Ridge's previous framework, and also contains the rules of an ordinary sect. The 3 of you will be outer disciples, and each of you will teach a group of disciples. This old man will lead some younger disciples to become inner disciples. Xiao Hua nodded and said, also this old man basically agrees with the rewards and punishments. However, since we are going to expand, there is no harm in abandoning the outer and inner disciples, and each of you will lead a division. Xiao Hua expressed his opinion. In fact, what he said was similar to the Imperial Lightning sect structure, and he didn't have any special ideas. Hearing this, Xiong-yi and the others smiled and said, we also understand what Master is saying. This kind of sect structure is a little scattered for the sect Master's authority, but it suits Master's lazy personality. However, the current Fortune Gate relies on Master's strength, and our Fortune Gate's disciples have not reached that level. According to Master's idea of managing the sect, is not suitable. All right. Xiao Hua naturally knew his own weight, and he waved his hand and said with a smile, these mundane matters will be left to the 3 of you, this old man will not say anything else. Yes, Master. The 3 of them said in unison, you can cultivate as much as you want, the higher your strength. The 3 of them suddenly thought of something and looked at each other. Xiong-yi then looked at Lu-yi and the others and said, Master, let junior brother Lu-yi and the others leave for a while. Xiao Hua nodded and let Lu-yi and the others leave. Prince Lan asked in a low voice, Master, don't tell me you've already reached the 5th grade? Yi, what do you think? Xiao Hua chuckled and asked in return. Nonsense. Xiong-yi said to Prince Lan, Master killed 3 Buddhist sects upper grade 4th grade essence force guardians with a wave of his hand, what do you think Master's strength is? But, Master, your cultivation seems to be only at mid-nascent soul realm, right? Li Xiang also asked in a low voice. Here, here, here. Xiao Hua smiled and waved his hand. 3 jade eyes flew to the 3 of them and said, I know what you're thinking, take them and cultivate. Ah, thank you, Master. Xiong-yi and the others were overjoyed. They carefully looked at the jade eyes and kept them in their spatial pouches before saying, actually, Master, this disciple wants to remind Master that you must control your cultivation realm. If the Immortal Palace finds out, it will be very difficult. This old man knows. Xiao Hua nodded and frowned. What if this old man is not on the hidden immortal mainland? Will the Immortal Palace find out? Definitely not in the Western Paradise. Those old bald donkeys of the Thunder Monastery wear the same pants as the Immortal Palace. As long as you break through to the 5th grade in the Western Paradise, the Immortal Palace will immediately know. Li Xiang replied, as for the 1,000 Demon Sacred Realm, the demon race and the Immortal Palace have the same agreement. They cannot block the celestial phenomenon of a breakthrough. Of course, the demon race has always been arrogant and unruly, and there have been many conflicts with the Immortal Palace over the years. Some demon kings and even great sages don't put the Immortal Palace in their eyes. If our Taoist cultivators break through in these places, the Immortal Palace may not know. And even if they know, they won't dare to go down to the lower realm to capture us. However, this is on the premise that the fellow Taoist who breaks through will not be eaten by the demon king. And this old man understands. Xiaohua nodded. He already knew Shui Mingzi's plan. Master, this disciple also has something to discuss with everyone. Prince Lan was very happy that he obtained the jade eyes. Now that he saw Xiaohua following his advice without any arbitrariness, he also said, I hope Master won't take offense. Xiaohua smiled and said, just say it. This disciple has not been in the Black Wind Ridge for long, so I might not know the origin of the Black Wind Ridge. Prince Lan said, but in this disciple's opinion, the Black Wind Ridge is not suitable to be the location of our fortune gate. Chapter 38:13. Oh, what do you mean? Xiaohua frowned slightly, but he soon regained his composure and asked with interest. Master, disciple has 3 reasons. His heart tightened as he carefully said, first, the Black Wind Ridge is not big enough for a sect to develop. Second, the Black Wind Ridge is located at the border of 3 countries. No matter how it develops, Jiang Country, Jiasa Country and Copper Pillar Country will pay attention. These 3 countries have Tao sects, Confucian cultivators and Buddhism behind them. Even if our fortune gate unifies the 3 countries, the Confucian cultivators will be alerted. Since Master wants to do something that no one has done before, this idea of establishing a country should be abandoned. Third, the Black Wind Ridge's origin energy is not particularly abundant, and it is only because of the origin stone mine underground. Now that the origin stone mine is known by others, it will be a big problem in the future. Oh, since you mentioned it, disciple has another drawback. Black Wind Ridge has already fallen into the Confucian cultivators' eyes. If Master wants to establish a sect here, it is tantamount to walking into a trap. Senior brother Lan is right. Li Xiang knew Xiaohua's temperament. He looked at Xiaohua and smiled. Master's cultivation is profound, but he is indeed lacking in this aspect. In these years, disciple has considered that the Black Wind Ridge's reputation is not good, and our fortune gate's reputation will also be bad if we establish a sect here. Who says this old man has not thought about it? Xiaohua of course would not admit it. A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows, how could this old man not consider this matter? It's just that this old man has not had time to discuss it with you. And what does Master think we should do next? Xiongyi asked with a smile. You can decide on this matter. Xiaohua casually waved his hand. Alright, disciple will speak first. Seeing that Xiaohua was not angry, Lan Huan relaxed and said, when disciple was traveling in Jing province, disciple saw a mountain range that was vast and rich in origin energy. If Master's formation can be placed in that mountain range, it will not attract the attention of Confucian cultivators. Disciple also knows that there is a blessed land in Yu province that is very suitable for establishing a sect. Li Xiang added, furthermore, I feel that this place doesn't have to be too far away from Black Wind Ridge. Let's take a closer look first. Xiaohua nodded and said, in fact, to our fortune gate, this protective grand formation is the most important. Only a place where we can set up the formation can establish a sect. Alright, disciple has some understanding of arrays. Prince Lan volunteered. Disciple will first go to the mountain range that junior brother Li mentioned. Good, you take Fujiwen with you. Xiaohua stood up and said, this old man will wait for your news. In addition, this old man has some matters to attend to today. Xiongyi, come over tomorrow morning. This old man wants to see your cultivation progress. Li Xiang is temporarily in charge of the affairs of Black Wind Ridge. Thank you, Master. Xiongyi was overjoyed. Li Xiang and Lan also stood up to accept the order. Xiaohua was naturally concerned about Taoist Jingting and Shen Songzi. Although the fortune gate currently had 3 nascent soul cultivators, Xiaohua's Dantian had more than 150 nascent souls. If Shen Songzi and Master Taoist Jingting succeeded in cultivating their scattered souls, then Xiaohua could absolutely control more than 150 scattered souls. What kind of strength was this? Xiaohua couldn't afford to be careless. When Xiaohua arrived at the quiet room, Taoist Jingting had already woken up and was whispering with Shen Songzi. Their discussion was lively. When they saw someone enter, both of them were startled and vigilance flashed through their eyes. When they saw Xiaohua, they were immediately overjoyed. They bowed and said, "Master, good." Xiaohua sat cross-legged on the praying mat and asked, "Have you finished your discussion?" "Yes, master." Xian Songzi nodded. "Disciple and junior brother Jingting have discussed it. There is no difference between the two of us. Now we can consume the mortal essence." "Good." Xiaohua waved his hand and took out a mortal essence that was several 100,000 years old. "What are you waiting for, master?" Xian Songzi and Daoist Jingting looked at the mortal essence and seemed to be afraid. They hurriedly dodged and cried out, "This mortal essence is too old. The heaven and earth essence contained within is not something we can absorb." "There is such a saying?" Xiaohua hurriedly put away the mortal essence. Only then did the two's little faces return to normal. "Yes, master," Xian Songzi said with a bitter smile. Mo Yuntong didn't explain, but disciple can sense the heaven and earth essence within the mortal essence that is so dense that it can swallow disciple. "Oh, so that's how it is." Xiaohua somewhat understood. The nascent soul was originally a spiritual body condensed from the heaven and earth essence. After absorbing the mortal essence, one could cultivate a scattered nascent soul. However, if there was too much heaven and earth essence in the mortal essence, it would similarly swallow the nascent soul. Seems like cultivating a scattered nascent soul is far from as simple as Mo Yuntong said. Mo Yuntong only pointed out a cultivation path. As for the specific details, you still have to figure it out yourself. Daoist Jingting replied with lingering fear. Xiaohua took out several mortal essences that were several tens of thousands of years old, 100,000 years old, and a few 100,000 years old. He said, "Xian Songzi, go first. You have more time to comprehend, so you have a higher chance of success." "Good." Xian Songzi chose a mortal essence that was about 120,000 years old and said, "Master, guard disciple at the side. If there is anything inappropriate, Master can make the decision." "Master understands." Xiaohua nodded and put away the rest of the mortal essences. He rubbed his hands together and launched a series of mysterious seals. As the seals were launched, strands of crystal threads as thin as hair condensed in midair and slowly fell into the mortal essence. The mortal essence melted like ice and snow, turning into a ball of yellow liquid. Within the liquid, balls of golden threads rolled up and down. Moreover, as the whole ball of liquid violently swelled, after the crystal threads entered the liquid, layers of tiny ant-like runes seeped out from the golden threads. These runes emitted a slight rumbling sound, like thunder and also like a low chant. When the runes fell into the yellow liquid, the liquid emitted strange fluctuations from time to time, and the whole liquid actually slowly shrank. After the liquid shrank, it turned into a human figure. Although the appearance was unclear, a fist-sized whirlpool appeared on the top of the door. Ghostly howls resounded in the air. Xiaohua growled, "Xian Songzi, if you're not forming your body now, when are you going to wait?" "Yes, master." Xian Songzi was already eager to give it a try. When he heard Xiaohua's order, he hurriedly rushed towards the mortal essence. Whoa! Xian Songzi's nascent soul was only a few feet away from the mortal essence when a huge suction force was produced from the vortex, pulling Xian Songzi into the mortal essence. Ah! Xian Songzi's nascent soul fell into the mortal essence and immediately let out a heart-wrenching howl. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and remained unmoved. He already understood that this was the essence of the mortal essence attacking Xian Songzi's nascent soul. This kind of pain was tantamount to tearing apart and rebuilding every inch of Xian Songzi's body. Xiaohua had also experienced this kind of pain in the past. When the heavens are about to bestow a great responsibility upon a man, it must first torment his will, toil his muscles and bones, starve his skin, empty his body, and disturb his actions. Xiaohua's mouth faintly recited a Confucian text, and the hand seals in his hand continuously struck out. With the passage of time, 3 faint invisible brilliants slowly emerged from the top of his head. This scattered nascent soul cultivation method was truly heaven-defying. Even someone as strong as Xiaohua's cultivation base was now beginning to produce a vision. Looking at the mortal essence again, the human figure gradually revealed Xian Songzi's face. However, his face was really ugly. His grimacing appearance was completely deformed. Moreover, the mortal essence's 4 limbs and even its entire body were trembling violently. It seemed that the fusion was very difficult. Go. In the end, Xiaohua took a deep breath and the magic power in his body surged. The 3 lights above his head suddenly flashed and the flower shape instantly disappeared. As Xiaohua pushed with his hands, the last hand seal slowly fell into the mortal essence. Boom! There was an indescribable vibration and a strange hiss. The mortal essence's body once again appeared with strange and obscure runes. As the runes tumbled, waves of fluctuations rushed out. Amidst the fluctuations, hundreds of thumb-sized whirlpools appeared in the quiet room at the same time. Waves of unknown air swarmed out and fell into the mortal essence that was already very similar to Xian Songzi's nascent soul. Phew! Xiaohua let out a sigh of relief. His gaze fell on the mortal essence. The runes had already begun to solidify and a Xian Songzi similar to an ordinary person was gradually forming. Finally it went smoothly. Xiaohua faintly smiled, but a moment later, his smile disappeared again. He muttered, "It seems, it's still missing something. Exactly, it's this height." Xiaohua looked at Taoist Master Jingting who was hiding in the corner of the quiet room in the distance. He was somewhat envious and somewhat worried. Suddenly he realized, this height is very similar to a 4 or 5-year-old child. Thinking of this, Xiaohua was just about to close his eyes and carefully ponder over the strangeness inside, but suddenly, a tremor suddenly emerged from the bottom of his heart. This is? Without waiting for Xiaohua to think more, a peerless pressure descended from the sky and enveloped the entire quiet room. An explosive aura instantly filled the entire quiet room. Lightning tribulation? This aura was so familiar that Xiaohua almost didn't need to think before he jumped up from the ground. Cultivating a nascent soul requires 3 gold lightning tribulations? Just as this thought appeared, Xiaohua unhesitatingly rolled up his sleeves and brought Xian Songzi, who had already finished forming his body, and Taoist Master Jingting who was beside him, who was extremely frightened. His figure flashed and he turned into lightning and rushed out of the quiet room. When he arrived outside the cave, he saw that the sky was already densely covered with dark clouds at an extremely fast speed. Streaks of dragon-like lightning had already begun to brew behind these dark clouds. Damn it, I understand now. This is a loose immortal's helpless action after failing the lightning tribulation. Cultivating a nascent soul also requires a lightning tribulation. This is probably the initial tribulation of a nascent soul. In the future, after a period of time, every realm will have a lightning tribulation. How can my heavenly star's formation withstand 3 gold lightning tribulations? Once this lightning tribulation falls, not to mention the formation turning into ashes, even more than half of the people and demons in the Black Wind Mountain range will die. Xiaohua was somewhat panicked. Why didn't Mo Yuntong even mention this? Chapter 38:14. Xiaohua flew out of the immortal cave. Xiong Yi and the others were naturally alarmed by the lightning tribulation's celestial phenomenon and had already flown out to investigate. While everyone and the demons were in a state of panic, Xiaohua separated from the grand array and activated the lightning escape technique. Sure enough, once Xiaohua left, the suffocating pressure was swept away. Although the sky was still filled with lightning and thunder, the rolling dark clouds chased after Xiaohua. See. Xiong Yi, Lan Wang, and Li Xiang stood in the air, watching the lightning tribulation leave. They were even more shocked. After a while, the 3 of them looked at each other and sucked in a breath of cold air. Xiong Yi asked in a low voice, 2 junior brothers, what realm did Master break through? Why is there still lightning tribulation? If senior brother doesn't understand, then of course we don't understand either. Lan Wang was also confused. Maybe it's some secret technique Master cultivates? Seeing that the demons of Black Wind Ridge were a little restless, Xiong Yi frowned and sent a message to Qin Xiaoyao, telling him to find He Xiong and the other demons. The 3 of them waited in the air for Xiaohua to return. After waiting for 3 whole days, Xiaohua returned with a slightly tired expression. The 3 of them hurriedly went up to greet him. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Master is fine. You all go do your own things. Li Xiang, hurry up and find that paradise. With such a big commotion, it's impossible not to attract the attention of the immortal palace. Yes, disciple understands. Li Xiang hurriedly bowed and said, Disciple has already sent a group of disciples to bring Fuji Wen there. Disciple will go with senior brother Lan Wang. Xiaohua nodded and landed in front of the cave. He didn't see Yuanya standing there, looking at him with concern. Yuanya, come in. Xiaohua said with a wave of his hand. Yes, master. The worry and confusion on Yuanya's face had already disappeared. Hearing Xiaohua's greeting, Yuanya hurriedly replied respectfully and followed Xiaohua into the cave. Xiaohua sat down on the brocade chair and asked, Yuanya, do you understand now? Disciple doesn't understand. Yuanya was honest and said with regret, The ways of the world, mutual deception, is much more cruel than the beast fights in Mystic Jade Dark Forest. Disciple originally thought that Master was the closest person to Disciple, but Disciple never thought that Master would want Disciple's life, and the reason for killing Disciple was because he wanted to marry Diawu. As for Diawu, this Disciple really does not understand why the throne of Jiang country is so important, to actually make her betray so many people. Master, this Disciple really doesn't dare to believe that this Diawu is the Diawu that this Disciple raised with dear milk when she was young. What made her become like this? There was no distinction between the masters that Yuanya spoke of. Others might not understand, but Xiao Hua was able to distinguish clearly from Yuanya's sorrowful tone. After all, the two people that Yuanya considered to be the closest in his life betrayed him at the same time, and even wanted to put him to death. How could he, who did not understand the ways of the world, understand? Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Since you can't figure it out, then don't think about it. In the future, you don't have to think about such complicated and profound questions when you stay under my tutelage." "Yes, Master." Yuanya's tone was still somewhat gloomy, but compared to his previous heart that was on the verge of death, there was a faint trace of sunshine. Everyone's personality was different, and there was no need to ask everyone to be proficient in the ways of the world. In addition, this Jade-Eye scroll contains a kind of elementary body refining technique. When you have divine sense, you can explore it yourself. Xiao Hua's heavenly body refining technique came from the Sunset Island, and when he obtained it, he had already promised not to spread it out. However, with Xiao Hua's current cultivation, it was not too difficult to create a similar elementary cultivation method. This body refining technique was given by the green-robed Xiao Hua to the tens of thousands of children in the space to use. Many thanks, Master. With a goal to cultivate, Yuanya seemed to have come back to life, and he reached out to receive it and very happily replied. Go, if there is something you do not understand, go and ask Lu Yi and Qin Xiaoyao. Now that you are all fellow disciples, there is no need to be afraid of anything. Xiao Hua waved his hand to let Yuanya leave. Looking at Yuanya's straight waist, which was different from when he came in, Xiao Hua's mouth hung a smile. Even a bright pearl had to be sharpened, and after this encounter Yuanya might be able to understand more. Moreover, Yuanya's mind was pure, and he could practice the Big Dipper divine fist that others could not practice. Xiao Hua was really curious about what Yuanya's achievements would be in the future. After Yuanya left, Xiao Hua also stood up and entered the quiet room. After activating the restriction of the quiet room, he sat cross-legged on the futon and took out the Kunlun mirror. He thought to himself, I didn't expect that the lightning tribulation that Xian Songzi and perfected Jingting faced to cultivate the scattered nascent soul was not the triple gold lightning tribulation, but only one. However, this lightning tribulation was extremely powerful. With their early-stage nascent soul cultivation, it was impossible for them to withstand it. If it wasn't for me blocking most of it for them, their small bodies would have been turned into ashes by the lightning tribulation. However, in this way, although they can successfully cultivate the scattered nascent soul, the next lightning tribulation will definitely be even more ferocious than this one. It seems that unless I cultivate to the late-stage nascent soul stage, it's better not to place my hopes on the scattered nascent soul cultivation method. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua activated his magic power, and in the light pillar of the Kunlun mirror, Xian Songzi and perfected Jingting came out of the Kunlun ruins. Thank you, Master. At this moment, Xian Songzi and perfected Jingting looked like they were only half of their previous height, but they were much better than nascent soul cultivators. The two of them looked around, and joy appeared on their pale faces as they bowed and said, Get up. Xiao Hua flicked his sleeve. Although I blocked the lightning tribulation for you, it's still disadvantageous to your cultivation. I'm sure you know the karma inside. You have to speed up your cultivation in the future. Don't have any problems when the next lightning tribulation comes. Yes, I understand. Perfected Jingting replied with lingering fear. The next lightning tribulation will be the scattered nascent soul lightning tribulation. I hope that Master can bestow me with spiritual wisdom so that I can comprehend the cultivation method with senior brother Shen Songzi. Alright. Xiao Hua thought for a moment. He knew that consuming Renjing would reconstruct the nascent soul body, so there would be a lightning tribulation. Spiritual wisdom was not necessary for cultivating the scattered nascent soul, so there would not be any special lightning tribulation. He raised his hand and took out a spiritual wisdom that was not too old. He asked, Who are you waiting for to consume it first? I'll go first. Perfected Jingting took a step forward and said, Just now, senior brother Shen Songzi tried it first. Now it's my turn. All right. Xiaohua raised his hand and delivered the spiritual wisdom to Perfected Jingting. Perfected Jingting respectfully received it. He opened his mouth and the swallow-like spiritual grass fell into his body. Buzz. Just as the spiritual wisdom entered, Perfected Jingting's body immediately flashed with a strange green brilliance. A sound even stranger than the brilliance came from his abdomen. Green seal script. Xiaohua, who was closely watching Perfected Jingting, was startled. He hastily released his soul sense. Sure enough, within his soul sense, Perfected Jingting's nascent soul body reflected a green light. Several fingernail-sized green seal script spiraled and rushed towards Perfected Jingting's head. Boom! Perfected Jingting only felt an earth-shattering rumble in his mind. Layers of green were like blooming flowers. Little swallows flew out one after another from these flowers. As these swallows flew out, he seemed to have opened his spiritual cavities. His mind became refreshed, far from the muddle-headed feeling he had before. Within Xiaohua's soul sense, he also saw several green seal scripts suddenly expand and turn into a fist-sized flower. As the flower bloomed, a strange fluctuation tore apart Xiaohua's soul strands. Immediately, all the green light disappeared and Perfected Jingting returned to his original appearance. Junior brother? Seeing Perfected Jingting open his eyes, Xian Songzi's eyes flashed with joy. Although he knew the spiritual wisdom would definitely be effective, he still couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Excellent. Perfected Jingting didn't know how to express his feelings. This feeling of opening all the spiritual cavities was absolutely nothing to the previous him. He never felt there was anything to treasure. After all, without these spiritual cavities, he couldn't have stepped into the ranks of cultivators, let alone reach nascent soul. But now that he had lost his spiritual cavities, he was actually inferior to ordinary people. Now that he had exchanged them with heavenly treasures, this feeling of regaining what he had lost made him understand that even if it was the most common magical ability, as long as he had it, it was also a kind of happiness. He could only use these two words to describe his feelings. Chapter 38:15. Xian Songzi You Too. Xiaohua waved his hand again and took out another spiritual wisdom amplification and sent it to Xian Songzi. When Xian Songzi used the spiritual wisdom amplification, his eyes also flashed with a strange emotion. Only after using it did he truly know the importance of the spiritual wisdom amplification. Xian Songzi glanced at Perfected Jingting and then looked at Xiaohua deeply. Then the two of them bowed at the same time. Master, disciple is truly grateful for Master's kindness of rebirth. There's no need to say anything more. Quickly go and cultivate. You're my disciples. What I can do for you, I'll do according to your requests. Xiaohua smiled and sent the two nascent souls into the Kunlun ruins. After putting away the Kunlun mirror, Xiaohua sat cross-legged on the futon and took out a mother-child spirit fruit. As he looked at it carefully, he thought to himself, Xian Songzi and Perfected Jingting are nascent souls with primordial spirits. It's natural for them to use the mother-child spirit fruit and spiritual wisdom amplification. After all, they know the degree. However, the 100 or so nascent souls in my lower dantian are already damaged. I'm afraid it's difficult for them to distinguish the degree of use. It'll be difficult for me to cast the spell. Moreover, this spiritual wisdom amplification actually contains green seal text. Such a rare treasure can be used directly, but if it's tempered by my Dao Sect's alchemy method, won't it have a better effect? There's a pill called Spirit Awakening Fluid in Senior Tsonglangzi's pill formula. It seems to be related to Spirit Awakening. However, the main ingredient is not spiritual wisdom amplification. When green-robed Xiaohua in the space is free, I'll let him try refining some. Perhaps this Spirit Awakening fluid will have a better effect on these nascent souls with incomplete primordial spirits? Of course, these nascent souls are constantly tempered by the 5 Qi righteous thunder in their lower dantian. Moreover, they have obtained the essence of the ancient fierce soul. I believe their bodies are tougher than the two of them. It won't be difficult for them to pass the thunder tribulation. If it were in the past, I wouldn't be so anxious. I would definitely wait and see the results of Xian Songzi and the others' cultivation. But now, the matter of Yaotai Mountain has attracted the attention of the Immortal Palace. Perhaps they won't think of me now, but there's no such thing as a secret. Who knows when the Immortal Palace will send someone here? Even, not to mention the Immortal Palace, even the Confucian cultivators of Yuzhou might not be able to tolerate me. Therefore this Shao cannot wait any longer. I can only make use of my time. At this point Xiaohua was indeed staking everything on a single throw. Also, the things in this world are truly mysterious. Developing intelligence seems to be the second time this Xiao has seen a heaven-earth spiritual object that contains green seal text. Ordinary spirit fruits that contained heaven-earth yuan qi were already rare, but this underworld fruit that could develop spiritual intelligence and grow in the water of the Yellow Springs were even more incredible. Of course, the effects of this miraculous item were miraculous as well. Not to mention the fact that it was able to penetrate the spiritual cavities of nascent souls. Just the underworld fruit was far more beneficial to soul cultivators than the daybreak moon. Previously, Xiao Mao's cultivation speed was already pretty good. However, after consuming the underworld fruit, the speed of cultivation became even more terrifying. In just a few years, I have already reached the Heaven's Heart realm. Although I have just broken through to the Heaven's Heart realm, Xiao Mao can feel that my cultivation speed will definitely not slow down in the future. Could it be that this soul cultivator, or rather, the millions of shamans in Meng Mountains were really the descendants of the great god Hoodoo? Hoodoo great god really transformed into the 9 underworlds? If that's the case, how do you explain the formation of the inside of Xiao Mao's space? Shui Shui's soul and Master's soul. Forget it, this world is too miraculous. It's not something that Xiao Mao can speculate with his current strength. Let's not think about it for now. Just as Xiao Hua thought of this, an indescribable surge suddenly appeared in his meridians. Then Dragon Vein Xiao Hua let out a furious roar and rushed out of Xiao Hua's body, turning into a huge dragon and flying several dozen feet away. It flew straight to the restrictive spell of the quiet room, and only then did it trigger the restrictive spell. The dragon's body was forcefully stopped, and the huge dragon filled up the entire quiet room. What's going on? Xiao Hua asked curiously. Dragon Vein Xiao Hua turned into a dragon elephant and coiled around the quiet room. While swimming, he answered, I sensed a kind of dragon aura soaring into the sky. Although this dragon aura was very weak and not much, after the dragon aura soared into the sky, the noble aura that descended was extremely vast and very tempting. I couldn't help but fly out. Oh? Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and looked at the direction Dragon Vein Xiao Hua was facing. He asked curiously, What's going on? What's going on over there? Dragon Vein Xiao Hua coiled around the quiet room for an hour before entering Xiao Hua's physical body. Xiao Hua walked out of the quiet room and released his Buddhist consciousness. When he saw what was happening over there, he couldn't help but sneer. However, the moment he withdrew his Buddhist consciousness, his expression suddenly changed. He released his Buddhist consciousness again and looked at it for a moment before withdrawing it thoughtfully. A short while later, Xiongyi entered the dwelling and said with a bow, Master Jiang country has been revived. And Master knows? Xiao Hua nodded and said, This Changling princess is amazing as expected. Not only did she kill 2 birds with 1 stone, she killed 3 birds with 1 stone. In just a few days she actually found a suitable Jindan cultivator to establish a country. It seems, she knows that this old man will not make things difficult for her. Everyone knows that Master is benevolent. As long as you do not do anything outrageous, even if Master is angry, there is no need to be afraid. Xiongyi smiled and then winked as he lowered his voice and asked, Master, that lightning tribulation, what was it? Lightning tribulation is lightning tribulation. What could it be? Xiao Hua waved his sleeve in annoyance and said, This lightning tribulation is not this old man's, don't think so much. Xiongyi blinked. Seeing Xiao Hua stand, he hurriedly stood and sent Xiao Hua into the quiet room. However, before Xiao Hua entered the quiet room, he stopped and turned around. Also, Master is going into closed-door cultivation for a period of time. If there are any earth-shaking movements in the future, all of you don't have to be too surprised. All right. Xiongyi hurriedly agreed. Also, urge Black Bear to have all the Yaos, and the outer sect disciples go down the veins. Empty the veins as soon as possible. Xiao Hua thought of something again and instructed, When Master makes a move, there won't be any meat left for you. He understood. Master, this disciple will roll up his sleeves and go to work. Xiongyi giggled and left. After Xiongyi left, Xiao Hua did not enter the quiet room. Instead, his figure flashed and disappeared into the void. When Xiao Hua reappeared, he was already outside the Black Wind Ridge. This place was about 40 li away from the Black Wind Ridge. Xiao Hua's figure appeared in midair. He frowned as he looked down at the mountain rocks below. He seemed to be thinking about something. However, after a short while, Xiao Hua stretched out his hand. A huge palm silhouette of several tens of zhang in size fell from the sky and plunged into a pile of rocks. When the big hand turned over, that big hand was holding a scholarly cultivator in a yellow robe. This scholarly cultivator's robe was very strange. It was somewhat similar to the outer robe of a secular person, but there were some flashing inscriptions on the robe. There were also mountains and rivers printed on the chest and back of the robe. It looked similar to the official robe worn by the secular government officials. This cultivator is a bit strange? Xiao Hua looked at the cultivator imprisoned by him and thought to himself, not only is his appearance different, but his cultivation is also strange. It seems that he is only proficient in the earth escape technique and concealment technique. He should be very proficient in the earth essence technique. But he is also very weak in other aspects. Under the attack of this Xiao's magic power, he didn't notice at all. There seems to be some kind of aura on this robe. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua's expression suddenly changed. He whispered, "Where is fellow immortal Confucian cultivator?" Four-colored true qi gushed out from Xiao Hua's chest. That Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua landed in the air. When he saw everything in front of him clearly, the Confucian cultivator Xiao Hua's expression was also grave. He nodded and said, "Fellow Taoist worries are correct. This Confucian cultivator's robe has the same aura as the Imperial Star Thrust and the Imperial Shield. This scholarly cultivator must be the eyes and ears of the Immortal Palace." "Thank you, fellow Immortal." Xiao Hua nodded slightly and sent Xiao Hua back. Then he thought for a moment and slowly extended his finger. He was extremely careful as if he was afraid of breaking the cultivator's forehead. Then he quickly withdrew his finger. "Earth Lord." Xiao Hua's face showed an astonished expression. The Immortal Palace really has Earth Lords all over the hidden Immortal Continent? Granny, no wonder the Immortal Palace can control the entire hidden Immortal Continent's information. Oh, that's not it. Not every place on the hidden Immortal Continent has Immortal Palace's eyes and ears. Although in name, the Earth Lord supervises the entire hidden Immortal Continent's information, these Earth Lords can't always pay attention to all the movements. Only the places that the Immortal Palace pays attention to have Earth Lords truly investigate. It turns out that the Black Wind Ridge doesn't enter the Immortal Palace's eyes at all. It seems that because of this Xiao, it attracted Earth Lord. But this is troublesome. Xiao Hua shook his head slightly. If my Fortune Gate's disciples leave the Black Wind Ridge, won't all traces be seen by Earth Lord? Then won't the newly found cave be exposed to the Immortal Palace's surveillance? Hee. Xiao Hua pondered for a moment and a smile appeared on his face. Several extremely small soul strands were released from between his eyebrows and landed on the Earth Lord's forehead. After a while, Xiao Hua put the Earth Lord back into the ground and flew away with a smile on his face. After dealing with the Earth Lord's surveillance, Xiao Hua formed an incantation and used the Earth Escape technique to escape towards the Black Wind Ridge. On the first day he returned to the Black Wind Ridge, he had tried to sense the metal and wood essence blood that had seeped into his body. Unfortunately, no matter how many times he tried, it was to no avail. Now that he had dealt with everything, he began to busy himself with the most important matter in his heart. At this time, Xiao Hua's Earth Escape technique had already reached a high level. Not to mention that he could move extremely nimbly underground, even in places without Earth attribute origin energy, he could rely on his own Earth attribute energy to move. Therefore, this time it was very easy for him to reach the location of the black fog. Chapter 38:16. However, the black fog underground was still like a viscous liquid. Clusters of tiny vortexes were endlessly produced from the inside, constantly spreading towards the outside. However, even at this place, Xiao Hua was still unable to sense the blood essence in the water and fire magnetic field. Xiao Hua's heart had already turned cold by more than half. Damn it, looks like this Xiao's method isn't working. Xiao Hua breathed out spiritual fire and drilled through the fog while secretly thinking, I still have to... Success. That is to say, when Xiao Hua's figure had just rushed through the black fog that was several tens of feet deep, a familiar feeling suddenly emerged from the bottom of his heart. It was just like when he used the blood refining method to refine the demonic tool in the past. The entire magnificent water and fire magnetic field space had yet to appear, but the situation inside the space had already fallen into his heart. Haha, the blood refining method of the demonic world is indeed powerful. It can really shock the heavens and earth and make ghosts and gods weep. Xiao Hua laughed loudly, his figure landing inside the magnetic field space. At this time, Xiao Hua already didn't need to open his transcendence vision. What the naked eye could see was a pitch-black mass, but the entire water and fire magnetic field was like a part of Xiao Hua's body, incomparably familiar with it. Even those tens of thousands of magnetic fields were like rainbows in Xiaohua's heart. What was special was that at the extreme point of the fire magnetic field, a vermilion bird poked its head out from inside, somewhat curiously looking at Xiaohua. Without any hesitation, it turned into a rainbow and landed below Xiaohua's body, obediently lying beside him, appearing very attached. At the same time, at the extreme point of the water magnetic field, the other black tortoise also didn't show any signs of weakness. It naively flew out, turned into a square foot, and landed on Xiaohua's right arm, similarly obedient. Good. Xiaohua was happy in his heart, using his hand to caress the black tortoise and vermilion bird. Unfortunately, where his hand landed, he simply couldn't touch the two little things. Forget it. Xiaohua was a little embarrassed. He shrugged and said, "Wait for this old man to collect all of you. I reckon that once we enter the space, this old man will be able to touch you." After speaking, Xiaohua released his consciousness and covered the fire and water origin magnetic field. When his consciousness came into contact with the fire and water origin magnetic field, Xiaohua was instantly dumbfounded. He couldn't help but complain bitterly, "Oh my god, this fire and water origin magnetic field is 3,650 mu in size. If it was an ordinary mountain with this Xiao's current divine sense, even if it takes a lot of effort, this Xiao would still be able to store it in the space. But this is a water and fire magnetic field. Its weight is many times that of an ordinary mountain peak. With this Xiao's current cultivation, I'm afraid I won't be able to store it in my space. Rise." At this moment, Xiaohua's mind was mixed with his divine sense and could already wrap up the entire water and fire magnetic field. While his mind was affected, Xiaohua secretly shouted in his heart, as if to encourage himself. Rumble. The entire magnetic field space shook several times, scaring the tiny black tortoise and vermilion bird into fleeing. The water and fire magnetic fields had only moved a few inches, and there was still a large gap between them and the space. Forget it, today this old man will exhaust you to the end. After knowing the gap, Xiaohua wasn't discouraged. He simply sat cross-legged in the magnetic field space and released his consciousness, divine sense and Buddhist sense. Just like when he was in the rockfall matrix of Yaotai Mountain, he began to temper his divine sense according to the secret technique. Of course, in addition to tempering his divine sense, Xiaohua also practiced other divine abilities. Every few days he would even fly out of the magnetic field space and summon a nascent soul. He would feed the nascent soul with human essence and use spiritual wisdom amplification. However, in this way the Black Wind Ridge would suffer. Every once in a while the entire Black Wind Ridge would shake a few times. Moreover, from time to time, the might of a lightning tribulation would suddenly appear. However, everyone and the demons of the Black Wind Ridge had also received Xiong Yi's order. They knew that their master was cultivating, so they didn't ask too much. In fact, they didn't have time to ask too much because the Black Wind Ridge's underground or vein was really enormous. They mined day and night and simply didn't have time to ask too much. Time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, more than 3 years had passed. On this day the sky was clear and boundless. Outside the Black Wind Ridge, some of the Golden Eagle's subordinates were patrolling. Suddenly the entire Black Wind Ridge shook violently. This shaking was far more weak than the previous week shaking. Several of the vicious birds were shocked. The leading vicious bird let out a few loud cries and rushed into the great array. The other vicious birds spread their wings again, wanting to find the source of the abnormality. After all, in the past 3 years, although there were still some Confucian cultivators who came back to the Black Wind Ridge to provoke them, they were defeated by Xiong Yi, Li Xiang and Prince Lan every time. There had never been such a big movement. However, before the vicious bird landed on the peak of the Black Wind Ridge, the shaking suddenly stopped. A powerful suction force was generated from the capital star array. Tens of thousands of hurricanes rushed in from all directions and madly rushed into the great array. With these hurricanes, the great array unexpectedly changed. Not only did it expand in all directions, but the power of the great array also suddenly increased. The vicious bird's body instantly stopped in midair. Then, as if a big hand had grabbed it, woo, it was thrown high into the sky. Jia. The vicious bird was shocked. It flapped its wings in midair, but it still couldn't stop its body. It didn't stop until its body was thousands of feet high in the sky. Ha ha ha. As soon as the vicious bird stopped, Xiaohua's laughter came from the cave. Then, a powerful divine sense that the vicious bird had never seen before suddenly grabbed it and pulled it down from the sky. When it fell outside the great array like a meteor, the divine sense suddenly disappeared. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. How could the vicious bird not know that this was Xiao Hua's divine sense? It shouted loudly and flew into the distance to patrol. After the water and fire magnets were absorbed into the space, the capital star array's power actually increased by 40% without the interference of the water and fire magnets. If I used the water and fire magnets to set up a great array, wouldn't all the methods to break the array be useless? Xiao Hua's divine sense swept and immediately understood the reason for the great array's change. Master, you've come out of seclusion? A moment later, Xiong Yi, Prince Lan, and Li Xiang flew out from the primordial stone vein and came to meet him. Yes, it's over. Xiao Hua smiled. Xiong Yi was a little strange and whispered, Master, you've only been in seclusion for 3 years, right? Just 3 years? Xiong Yi didn't say anything else. Yes, ordinary nascent soul cultivators would enter seclusion for decades or even centuries. How could they come out in 3 years? You think I don't want to? Xiao Hua snorted, but I'm a little uneasy and I just finished a big thing, so I came out to take a look. Master isn't in seclusion. Li Xiang said with a smile. Disciple occasionally sees Master going in and out of the great array. Indeed. Xiao Hua nodded. Master is just making some preparations to prevent the Confucian cultivators from attacking my Black Wind Ridge. Right? Have you heard of the Immortal Palace's eyes and ears? Li Xiang was stunned and shook his head. Isn't the Earth Geyser a character in legends and stories? Not necessarily. Prince Lan immediately understood and smiled. There's no smoke without fire. Maybe the characters in the stories are copies of reality. Could it be that Master saw the Immortal Palace's land? Xiong Yi's eyes turned and asked. Yes. Xiao Hua nodded. Master has already seen it. Master has also taken care of this matter, so you don't have to worry. However, who knows how much land there is in the entire hidden immortal continent. You all have to be careful and don't give yourself away. Master is worried. Royal Highness Lan seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly reported. Disciple received some information. After the Jade Pavilion meeting, on the hidden immortal continent, including the Jiang country next to it, there were a total of 10 Taoist countries that received the imperial tutor's signature to establish their own countries. And in the past year, there were actually 4 countries that were annihilated by the Immortal Palace. 2 of these 4 countries were in the Jing province, and the other 2 were near the Jing province. If this disciple's guess is correct, the remaining 6 countries including Jiang country, will be destroyed by the Immortal Palace sooner or later. This is probably due to the contribution of this so-called land. Master, this matter is very strange. Your intuition is also reasonable. Li Xiang said from the side, the Immortal Palace has never interfered with the affairs of the hidden immortal continent on the surface. Unless a great demon of the 1,000-demon saint realm appears, the Immortal Palace may send troops. How could they send troops to annihilate the Taoist country this time? The premonitions of Shui Mingzi and Ao Zhantian are indeed reasonable. Xiong Yi said with a frown, the current hidden immortal continent is really sensitive. Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat, and an extremely bad feeling arose. Others might not know the intentions of the Immortal Palace, but how could he not know? Granny, maybe the Star Sovereign Palace really did something. Xiao Hua thought inwardly, the Immortal Palace probably couldn't find the culprit who killed Kong Hongwu, so they simply killed all the suspects. Who knows when it will be the Black Wind Ridge's turn? Let's go, we'll enter the cave to discuss. Xiao Hua looked around and turned to enter the cave. Xiong Yi and the others followed in. Xiao Hua sat on the brocade chair and immediately asked, Li Xiang, how's the backup plan for our fortune gate? Yes, Master knows. Li Xiang hurriedly answered, Disciple and senior brother Lan have already found the location of the soaring Dragon Mountain Range. The heaven and earth origin energy there is abundant, and there are no signs of human habitation. Junior brother Fujiwen has also explored the mountain range and said that it is very suitable to set up a formation. Disciple has already instructed Black Bear to send some subordinates to excavate some caves on the main peak of the mountain range and make some preparations. Good, this matter should not be delayed. Xiao Hua nodded. Tell the disciples that there is no need to mine in the Source Stone vein anymore. Pack up and prepare to move our fortune gate from the Black Wind Ridge to the soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Also, Xiong Yi, go and call Fujiwen over. Master will bring him to the soaring Dragon Mountain Range to set up the formation. Yes, Master. Xiong Yi agreed, and just as he was about to leave the cave, he suddenly turned back and said, Master, actually, there is no need to be so anxious. Chapter 38:17. Hearing Xiongyi's words, Xiaohua was rather puzzled and asked curiously, "Oh, why?" The 4 countries that junior brother Lan mentioned were all destroyed a year ago, and this disciple also received news that 2 months ago, something big happened at Longevity Town in the country of Shi. The Confucian cultivators can't even take care of themselves, so they won't make any moves in a short period of time. Ah? What big matter? Xiaohua had a lot of feelings for Longevity Town, so he couldn't help but be shocked and hurriedly asked. The abbot of Jiangchao Temple, Lishan, was killed. Xiongyi just said it casually, but he didn't expect Xiaohua to take it so seriously. He couldn't help but stand there and answer curiously. Xiaohua frowned and asked curiously, "Jiangchao Temple? Lishan?" That's right, when Xiaohua left Longevity Town, Jiangchao Temple was still a Taoist temple. How did it become a Buddhist temple now? And wasn't Longevity Town's Little Gold Temple? Wasn't the abbot of Little Gold Temple that Mingyu? However, Xiaohua immediately realized that if he could leave Longevity Town, then wouldn't the people and things in Longevity Town be changed? Do you know who killed him? Xiaohua narrowed his eyes. Was it a Confucian cultivator? It's definitely a Confucian cultivator. Xiongyi answered with a smile. Even if it wasn't a Confucian cultivator, it's definitely a Confucian cultivator. This. When Xiongyi said this, Xiaohua instantly sucked in a breath of cold air. His entire body froze in place and he couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice, "The Battle of Swords." Not only was Xiaohua shocked, but Lushan's death reminded him of the Battle of Swords in Xiaoyu Continent. Now Xi Mei, who was sitting cross-legged on Jiangchao Ridge, also had a myriad of thoughts in her heart. Where was the leisurely bearing she had when she sent Lushan to Longevity Town? The current Jiangchao Ridge was no longer the same as when Xiaohua left. The entire dilapidated Jiangchao Temple had been completely demolished, and even the entire Jiangchao Ridge had been flattened. Right in front of Xi Mei, a 99 zhang tall Buddha statue stood in the rising sun. However, this Buddha statue was covered from top to bottom by a layer of huge yellow cloth, and the statue's true body couldn't be seen clearly. Under the Buddha statue, on the side of the Jiangchao Ridge, the thousands of farmers from before had also disappeared. The farmland had also disappeared, and in its place was a Jiangchao temple that was 10 times larger than the small golden temple. The fate of the world was truly a joke. The Jiangchao Temple and the Shaojin Temple fought each other. Whoever lost would disappear from the Longevity Town. Xiaohua transformed into Xi Hang and defeated Shaojin Temple. Originally, it should have been Jiangchao Monastery that won, but Xi Hang was a Buddhist, so Shaojin Temple seized the victory and chased Jiangchao Monastery's Shaojian, Xiaohua, and Yuanya out of Longevity Town. But now, the small golden temple had been completely forgotten by the Longevity Town. This previously unknown river and tide temple was famous far and wide. At this time, the entire Jiangchao Ridge was completely surrounded by the Jiangchao Ridge. The road under the Jiangchao Ridge was also included in the Jiangchao Monastery. Even the paddy fields under the road and the Liao River were filled up and repaired very smoothly. There were stone steps that led from the Liao River to the Jiangchao Ridge, and there were rows of neatly arranged guest rooms. Normally, some good men and women would come over from the Liao River on large boats or small boats, and it was precisely from here that they went up to the Jiangchao Ridge to worship the golden body of the Guanyin Bodhisattva. On the other side of the Jiangchao Ridge, where the incense was at its peak, there were many temple buildings like the Hall of Great Strength. Each of them had a majestic aura and a myriad of scenes. Waves of sutra chanting came from within with a rhythm, and the occasional bell rang throughout the entire Longevity Town. If Xiaohua was here, he would definitely be full of praise. In just a dozen years, the entire Jiangchao Monastery had undergone such a great change. Moreover, this change was not caused by the Buddhist sect's disciples, but purely by the spontaneous action of the ordinary people. Could be said that man could conquer the heavens. However, even in the face of such prosperous Buddhist incense and the rhythmic sound of the wooden fish, Xi Mei couldn't help but sigh. She looked at the golden body of the Guanyin Bodhisattva not far in front of her. Although the golden body of the Guanyin Bodhisattva was covered by a brocade, when the endless sunlight shone on the Buddha statue, it was actually suffused with mottled colors. Within these colors, there were actually all kinds of living beings. It was truly bizarre. However, Xi Mei understood in her heart that this phenomenon was the phenomenon reflected when the extremely pure power of faith poured into the golden body of the Buddha statue. If she released her Buddhist consciousness and opened her eyes, she would definitely be able to see thousands of psyche power clustered around the power of faith flying over like waves from all directions. It was as if the power of faith had flowed into the sea and landed on this unconsecrated Buddha statue. CI May didn't know what kind of good karma CI Hang had in the past, but just by saving tens of thousands of villagers in the longevity town, CI May believed that he definitely wouldn't have such abundant power of faith. However, the timing of the Guanyin Bodhisattva's appearance was too crucial. At this crucial moment, there was such a suitable opportunity. Even if CI Hang didn't do any special good karma, this gathering of winds and clouds would push him to the peak of the karma. Although their cultivation is difficult, their Buddhist heart is firm and untainted by any worldly affairs. This kind of cultivation is something that our Buddhist disciples should have. He, Grandmaster. Jingqing smiled and said, although Ku-Tuchuo's cultivation is praised by our Buddha, our Buddhist sect has 13 Buddhas. However, our 13 Buddhist sects all have Buddhist fruits. Grandmaster, there is no need to be envious of others. Do you know? CI May suddenly said, the most recent Bodhisattva who achieved fruition is Nanwu Wise Manjushri Bodhisattva. Before achieving fruition, it was CI Hui of the Green Lotus Temple of the Xiang sect. Her cultivation was only in the realm of the Bright Lotus. Disciple naturally knows this. I'm also very envious. I'll also seize the time to cultivate and strive to reach the realm of the Bright Lotus as soon as possible. Jingqing hurriedly smiled. However, he immediately regretted it. CI May was already in the realm of the Lotus. Although he and CI Hui were of the same generation, they still hadn't achieved fruition. Wouldn't his words agitate her? Fortunately, CI May didn't seem to care. She shook her head slightly and said, Jingqing, you still don't understand. Have you ever seen a bodhisattva achieve fruition outside the Pure Land world? Oh, or should I say, do you know, it's far more difficult to achieve fruition outside the Pure Land world. Yes, disciple understands. Jingqing nodded and said, the Pure Land world is a place illuminated by the Buddha's light. All living beings have strong willpower, so it's relatively easy to achieve fruition. No, you don't understand at all. CI May said coldly. Jingqing was shocked. He hurriedly put his palms together and asked, Grandmaster, please enlighten me. Amit Ba. CI May chanted the name of Buddha. She stretched out a finger and pointed at her chest, fiercely tapping it twice. This. Jingqing was really at a loss. It wasn't that he wasn't proficient in Buddhism. It was just that what CI May said exceeded what he had learned. He really didn't understand where the Zen principle of CI May's action was. Chapter 38:18. Heart. Today CI May was different from the past. She didn't scold Jingqing too much and didn't let Jingqing comprehend it himself. Instead, she said, if you don't have a Buddha's heart, even in the Pure Land world, it's hard to attain enlightenment. This, of course I know. Jingqing said bitterly. He said in a low voice, I came to the hidden immortal continent and became the abbot of the Cloud Forest Temple. Didn't I preach the Dharma and have a Buddha's heart? Your Buddha's heart is only a Buddha's heart and a Buddha's heart. It's not the Buddha's heart. CI May hit the nail on the head. Not only you, even I have lost my Buddha's heart. Hiss. Jingqing was shocked and asked hurriedly, why? What's a Buddha's heart? If I knew what a Buddha's heart was, I would be like senior brother CI Hang and Manjushri. CI May answered. Then she looked back at the coffin under the golden body and said, actually, when I sent kindness to Jiangchao Temple, the Buddha's heart that I could have was already gone. Grandmaster. Jingqing's body trembled and his voice trembled. Could it be that Grandmaster knew that there would be such a day? No, I didn't know. CI May shook her head. Or I buried my head in the monk's robe. I didn't want to know. However, I heard the news that kindness was killed. I knew that kindness was the first, but he's definitely not the last. No one knows who the last one will be. No one knows when the last one will be. I understand. Jingqing seemed to have suddenly realized something and said hurriedly, the Buddha's heart that Grandmaster talked about is a heart that is clear and not tainted by the mortal world. We are Buddhas outside the Pure Land world who aim to promote the Dharma. How can we not be tainted by the mortal world and be clear? That's right, Jingqing. You finally got something. CI May smiled. I'm very gratified. But, Grandmaster, if we didn't promote the Dharma, how could there be so many believers? How could our Buddha's light shine on the hidden immortals? Jingqing asked. CI May nodded again. That's right. If we don't subdue demons and protect Buddha, how can we be Buddhist protectors? If it weren't for us sacrificing our hearts to impart the teachings, how could the Buddha's light reach so far? Alas, disciple understands why Grandmaster sighs. Jingqing sighed as well. He looked at the 99 feet tall Buddha statue and said, "This disciple is also envious of Kutuchuo's bitter cultivation. Since you know, will you still make a promise to these kind men and women?" Siaimei asked again. Jingqing shook his head slightly. "I can't give you this promise, nor can I." They might have thought that they were doing what they were supposed to do, but they didn't expect that the same kneeling would have different effects at different times. In 9 years they prayed for blessings for the people 9 times, and the golden body of Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva 9 times. Every time, the Confucian cultivators were defeated by the people. This time they were still kneeling and kowtowing. However, they were not praying for blessings, they were forcing him. "You are forcing my Buddhist sect." "That's right." In 9 years, the Confucian cultivators destroyed the golden body of Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva 9 times. In 9 years, it was these unarmed believers who reconstructed the golden body of Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva 9 times. How majestic is the power of the people's will. It's also this majestic power that forced Lishan to his death. It's also this majestic belief that killed millions or even tens of millions of lives. Siaimei sighed. This is the believer's fault? Or the Buddhist Lord's fault? Or is it my fault? None of them. Jingqing shook his head. It's the Confucian cultivators' fault. They shouldn't have challenged my Buddhist sect's bottom line time and time again. They shouldn't have killed Martial Uncle Lushan, who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. Do you think this is the work of the Confucian cultivators? Siaimei asked. Jingqing shook his head and said, "This disciple doesn't know either. It's just that Martial Uncle Lushan's body was injured by the water essence. Even if the Confucian cultivators wanted to get away with it, it's impossible for them to get away with it. Even if the Chongyun sect withdrew Longevity Academy from Longevity Town after Martial Uncle Lushan came to Longevity Town and even secretly sent experts to protect him, they still can't eliminate their suspicions. The water Qi Chaoyuan is a common cultivation method of Confucian cultivators in the Zhangxian continent. Except for the demons in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, even the disciples of Buddhism and Taoism can cultivate the pure water Qi Chaoyuan genuine Qi, let alone Confucian cultivators. Ah? Buddhist disciples? This isn't very possible? Jingqing turned pale with fright when he heard this. He lowered his head to look at the monk chanting sutras in the distance and said, "Grandmaster, you're saying? My heart is no longer a Buddhist heart. It's hard to avoid thinking too much." Siaimei wasn't surprised by Jingqing's reaction. This might be what some Buddhist disciples think. "No, I don't believe it." Jingqing shook his head. "I still think that it's either the Confucian cultivators who killed Martial Uncle Lushan and forced our Buddhist sect to withdraw from the hidden immortal continent, or it's the remnants of the Taoist sect who killed Martial Uncle Lushan and wanted to provoke a war between us immortals and Buddhas so that their Taoist sect can benefit from it. Therefore, Grandmaster, we must find the real culprit." Jingqing, you still don't understand. The truth of the matter is actually no longer important. Siaimei shook her head. What's important is that Longevity Town, the #1 town of our Buddhist sect in the hidden immortal continent, the #1 Taoist sect of our Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva in the hidden immortal continent, and Abbot Lushan was killed by the Confucian cultivators. This is the most important thing. Grandmaster, what do you mean? Jingqing's face suddenly turned ashen. He seemed to have thought of something and cried out in surprise. Swoosh. At this moment, a Buddhist light flashed in the distant sky, and a Buddhist document fell in front of Siaimei. Siaimei reached out and scanned it with her Buddhist awareness. Her calm face slightly frowned and relaxed. She put the Buddhist document into her monk robe and said faintly, 10 days ago the Yu province Confucian cultivator Shuai-Song state was destroyed by the Buddhist sect's Ji state. 253,000 people died. The Ho state was destroyed by the Confucian sect's Sun state and the Taoist sect's Yong state. 510,000 people died. 510,000 people? Jingqing was shocked. How could there be so many? The Yu province sect's Spirit Mountains Chu Feng sect was destroyed by the Buddhist sect's Dilian state. 30,000 people died. The Yu province Jilian Mountains Lianjiang temple was destroyed by an unknown Confucian cultivator. 603 people died. It's a mess, a mess. Jingqing bit his lips and seemed to be in disbelief. Swoosh. Before Jingqing finished speaking, several Buddhist lights flew from all directions to Siaimei's hand as if they had agreed beforehand. The Jing province's Chu family destroyed the Wind and Rain temple. The Buddhist sect's Ji state captured the Confucian sect's Ming state and the Mingji state. The death toll is unknown. The Duanmu family sent an emissary with the family head's order to command the Yu province and the Liang province's Confucian state to destroy the nearby Buddhist state. The monks of the Ji province's Xiaolin Temple, Linjiang Temple, and Great Pine Temple died suddenly. The Jing Mountain sect, Yunfeng sect, and Jilin Academy's defenses were also broken by an unknown force. The death toll is uncountable. The three Buddhist states of Gun Province, the Xiangbai State, the Pure Moon State, and the Lianxing State, the Qing Province's Jiyun Temple, and the Qing State have sent soldier monks to reinforce our River Tide Temple and resist the Confucian cultivators together. Xi Mei took the Buddhist archives, scanned them with her Buddhist awareness and read them one by one. Every time she read a message, Jing Cheng's body trembled. In the end he couldn't help but say, "Grandmaster, aren't they causing trouble? Don't they know this is strange? Don't they know the seriousness of this matter?" The first town of the Buddhist state. This is also the first golden Buddha statue on the hidden immortal continent. Xi Mei put away the Buddhist archives and said with a sigh, "These Buddhas and Buddhist states, whether they have the intention or not, they can't not come. There must be some truth and some lies in these messages." Jing Cheng suddenly said in a low voice, "Maybe Grandmaster can find the culprit." Xi Mei asked in reply, "If you did this, would you still draw legs on a snake?" Jing Cheng was speechless. Swoosh. Suddenly, another Buddhist light flew from afar. However, this Buddhist archive didn't land in front of Xi Mei, but in Jing Cheng's hand. Jing Cheng didn't dare to be negligent. He hastily grabbed it and scanned it with his Buddhist awareness. His expression immediately changed again, and he hurriedly sent it to Xi Mei's hand while shouting, "Grandmaster, the 10 Confucian states of Yu province have jointly sent 1,000,000 troops to besiege our longevity town. They're preparing to forcibly disperse the believers and topple the golden body of Guanyin Bodhisattva." This. Xi Mei was also shocked when she saw this. They really dare to make a move. That's right, Grandmaster. What does the Buddhist Lord plan to do? Jing Cheng asked. Xi Mei smiled bitterly and said, "How can I know what the Buddhist plan is? I'm afraid that even the immortal palace of Confucian cultivators doesn't know, right?" Whoa. At this moment, a violent explosion suddenly sounded in the distant sky. Then, a fist of several acres in size rolled up thousands of pillars of great chi and smashed toward the golden body of Guanyin Bodhisattva faster than a meteorite falling from the sky. "Amitabha, how dare you?" Xi Mei chanted the name of Buddha, and the Buddhist light flashed around her body. She slapped her forehead and her psyche power rushed out. The Buddhist light rushed into the sky like rolling clouds and condensed into the shape of a huge lotus. This lotus was several acres in size, and there were hundreds of tiny heavenly dragons swimming in it. Layers of Sanskrit characters gushed out with the heavenly dragons, and in the void shrouded by the lotus, chanting came out. Boom! The fist landed on the lotus. The light of Buddha was annihilated and turned into rolling inscriptions. The fist was also penetrated by the light of Buddha and turned into thousands of inscriptions. The huge airwave not only lifted the silk cloth outside the golden body of Guanyin Bodhisattva, but also blew tens of thousands of devotees in the vicinity of Jiangqiao Ridge to the ground. Xi Mei's body swayed slightly, and a touch of red flashed across her forehead. "Ah, Xi Mei, you're just SOSO. An arrogant voice sounded, "This is just a little warning from me. I won't take your life today. However, I heard that your Nirvana world has sent Buddhist generals and soldier monks to the immortal town. Today I'll tell you one thing. If any of them set foot in the immortal town, I'll wash the Jiangqiao temple with blood. I'll kill tens of thousands of your believers." Chapter 38:19. Amitabha. Xi Mei didn't show any weakness. She chanted Buddha's name and used lion's roar. "I have no attachment to life and no worries about death. My Buddha is from the heart to the heavens. Today my Jiangqiao temple will be cleansed and your Duanmu family will be destroyed. Haha, then we'll wait and see." That arrogant voice laughed loudly and flew away like a whirlwind. "Duanmu family?" Jing Cheng trembled slightly and cried out in surprise, "Why would a secondary rank 1 scholarly family appear now? Is this the Duanmu family's patriarch?" "It's not Duanmu Tianji." Xi Mei's face was somewhat pale as she said softly, "Duanmu Lianheng, a disciple of the Duanmu family who has the highest chance of becoming a literary saint." "Literary saint?" Jing Cheng didn't know what to say. Looking at the abnormally embarrassed monks and believers around him, he said softly, "What about these believers who came to pray? Persuade them to leave. At this moment, May also made up her mind. They can only force us here. It's enough that they have the heart. But, Jingqing smiled bitterly. I heard that the Buddhist believers of the hidden immortal continent's 9 prefectures are also coming to my Jiangqiao temple. How can we stop them? Even these believers? I feel that we might not be able to persuade them to leave. If they don't leave, May bit her lips and said softly, then, it'll be a great war between immortals and Buddhas. Clang. Just as May finished speaking, an earth-shattering sword cry sounded from the direction Duanmu Lianheng flew away from. It couldn't help but cover May's words. Even the chanting of the tens of thousands of monks and the sound of the wooden fish bell were annihilated. Tens of thousands of believers couldn't help but cover their ears with their hands, and a painful expression appeared on their faces. May looked up in shock. She saw a giant sword in the sky that was like a flying immortal, flashing with extremely dazzling sword brilliance. It swept up in almost unparalleled power and fell towards the golden body of Guanyin Bodhisattva beside her. The sound of the sword chime also shook the sky with the sound of thunder. Woo woo woo. Following the appearance of the sword light, a dozen powerful wills suddenly appeared around Jiangqiao Ridge. As soon as these wills appeared, they immediately stirred up powerful winds and tornadoes. All the wills flew in all directions. May was shocked. Not only was she shocked by the shocking sword, but she was also shocked by the consciousness hidden in the surroundings. Needless to say, it must be the consciousness of those strong Confucian cultivators, and it must be the doing of the strong cultivators who paid attention to the river and tide temple. She had been here for so long, but she did not notice it. Although she did not know whether they knew who killed kindness, but what she had just said. However, May didn't have time to think too much about it. The style of that sword was truly dazzling, and the ferocity of that sword was truly arrogant. Everyone's heart gave birth to a kind of reverence and a kind of fear. It was as if they were ants under this sword light. Amit Ba. May's eyes were filled with determination. The light of Buddha appeared under her feet, and the light of Buddha surged around her. As May flew up into the sky, the light of Buddha flickered, and May's transcendence golden body grew bigger. A huge lotus, even more compassionate than before, went to meet the sword light. Grand Master. Beside her, Jingqing was shocked. Even with his cultivation, he could see that May was no match for this sword light. If she flew out this time, May had no other choice but to fall into the cycle of reincarnation. Amit Ba. May's light of Buddha was almost annihilated by the sword light. However, just as she was about to die, another Buddhist chant resounded through the sky. This Buddhist chant was unusually compassionate. When people heard it, they immediately felt an indescribable vicissitudes of life. Then thousands of flowers bloomed in the sky above May. Under each flower there was a heavenly dragon supporting it, and beside each flower there were fairies dancing. Within each flower, there were countless Buddhist scriptures being chanted. Strands of telekinesis appeared from the void and surrounded the flowers, enveloping the entire longevity town. When May saw this, joy appeared on her face. Rumble. The sword light suddenly descended, and the thousands of flowers were annihilated. It was as if the thousands of small worlds had disappeared. However, while the Arhat was still in shock, the myriad of creatures appeared once more. Thousands of flowers surged out from the heavenly dragon. The sword light shone brightly and sank into the flowers in a few breaths of time. The light on the sword light turned into thousands of tiny child bodies. The child bodies spat out sword light and killed the heavenly dragon under the flowers. Roar. A loud dragon roar suddenly came from the flowers again. 9 dragon bodies rushed out and instantly turned into 10,000 feet long dragons that pounced at the flying sword with their fangs bared and claws brandished. Boom. Countless fireflies flew out and waves of impact spread out in all directions. However, because the longevity town was protected by the flowers, it wasn't damaged at all. Amidst the explosion, a squarish flying sword was revealed. This flying sword looked ordinary, but the almost edgeless flying sword gave off an awe-inspiring majesty that made people tremble in fear. Under the flying sword, the 9 dragons also disappeared. A 9-dragon staff flashed with treasure light. The treasure light swayed as if it was filled with mercy. Amit Ba. A faint Buddhist chant shook the sky. A bright Buddhist cloud appeared from where the staff came from and slowly flew over. Before the Buddhist cloud got close, a faint voice sneered, "The Buddha Kingdom's new Manjushri Bodhisattva actually came to my burial immortal continent. It really is my burial immortal continent's fortune. Since it's Manjushri Bodhisattva, this old man will give you face and see how your Thundersound temple handles this matter. If it's not to my liking, this old man will come back and cut down your golden Buddha statue. With that, the sword turned into a rainbow and flew away. The source of the voice was covered in white clouds, making it impossible to see who it was. Amit Ba, thank you Sandalwood. The sword left and the Bodhisattva came. A faint voice came from the Buddhist light. From where the Buddhist cloud came from, a Manjushri Bodhisattva rode on a green lion. He had a green lotus in his left hand and a treasure sword in his right hand. Looking at the Buddha's light behind Manjushri's head condensing into a mirror, and the power of faith flowing like a river, C.I. May felt a stabbing pain in her heart for no reason. He knew in his heart that even if C.I. Hui was only in the state of bright eye before achieving fruition, as a bodhisattva, C.I. Hui could use the Buddha's light and the power of faith of hundreds of millions of believers with the help of the Buddha's fruit behind her head. Even the power of faith accumulated in her previous life could be used in this life. This was the true power of bodhisattva. C.I. May didn't dare to be negligent. He quickly knelt in the air and chanted, Disciple C.I. May greets Manjushri Bodhisattva. Get up. Manjushri Bodhisattva came down from the green lion and waved his hand. The 9-dragon staff fell into his hand and turned into an ordinary staff. Thank you Bodhisattva. C.I. May got up and said in a low voice, Disciple sent a Buddhist letter to Lane Temple before coming to Jiangchao Temple. Disciple didn't expect Bodhisattva to come to Longevity Town so quickly. What Buddhist message did Buddha send? Well, Manjushri Bodhisattva was a little embarrassed. He then said frankly, I came under Buddha's Buddhist message. But this message has nothing to do with Longevity Town. I just saw that Jiangchao Temple was in a critical situation. I couldn't bear to see Guanyin Bodhisattva's golden body suffer, so I helped. Ah? C.I. May was stunned. He looked at Manjushri Bodhisattva in disbelief. He really didn't understand why Bodhisattva who wouldn't leave Lane Temple would suddenly come to hidden immortal continent. Was there something more important than Longevity Town and Guanyin Bodhisattva's golden body? Was there something more important than the war between immortals and Buddhas? There were still many things that C.I. May didn't know. In the most southwest of the hidden immortal continent, close to the East Sea, a huge storm had just passed through the gloomy sky. The sky seemed to have been trampled by thousands of black horses. Between the layers of clouds, the glaring sunlight streaked through the gaps and shone on the roaring waves on the coast of the East Sea. The waves were like beautiful flowers. In the sea of flowers, a wooden plank that looked like a boat broke through the waves. There were 2 people standing on the log. The one in front was a young monk who looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. The monk had red lips and white teeth, giving him an indescribably handsome appearance. However, his bald head and moon-white monk robes made the monk's temperament seem otherworldly. Not only was he handsome, his pair of bright eyes shone brighter than the stars in the night sky. These starry eyes revealed an incomparable benevolence and indescribable vicissitudes. Behind the monk, there was a stooped boatman holding a worn-out oar and rowing weakly. The boatman was wearing a straw hat. Occasionally he would raise his head and look at the monk's back. But every time, the boatman's eyes would be filled with puzzlement. About a few miles behind the log they were sitting on, there were bits of wood, ropes, and cloth scattered all over the place, as if a huge ship had just met with danger in the waves. Not long after, the plank reached the shore. The monk jumped down from the plank and stood steadily in the water. He then turned around and said in a low voice, Amit Ba, boatman, this poor monk will help you down the boat. The boatman threw away the oar and walked over with difficulty. The monk carefully supported the boatman and helped him to the shore. Then he respectfully clasped his hands and bowed. This little monk thanks Sandalwood. If it wasn't for Sandalwood, this little monk would have been buried in the fish's stomach like the others. You're welcome. The boatman waved his hand. His voice was a bit high-pitched, but I don't know why this little monk didn't cultivate in the Pure Land world. Why did you come to the hidden immortal continent from the Pure Land world? What plans do you have in the future? Sandalwood is wrong. The monk smiled. As long as you have Buddha in your heart, you can cultivate anywhere, whether it is the Pure Land world or the hidden immortal continent. This poor monk wants to go to Longevity Town. Sandalwood's ship has been destroyed. I don't know what plans you have. Unfortunately, this poor monk is penniless and can't help Sandalwood. How about Sandalwood follow this poor monk to Longevity Town? Maybe this poor monk can ask the temple in Longevity Town to help Sandalwood. Chapter 38:20. Hee hee, little monk, you don't have to worry about my matters. I have my own place to settle down. Who knows where your longevity town is? You, a little monk, can go there to beg for alms, but how can I go there? Do I have to walk there with you? The boatman waves his hand and says, let's bid farewell here. Amit Ba, Tanua is right, this poor monk thanks Tanua. The monk bows, but then he seems to have thought of something and hurriedly says, oh right, Tanua, if you go to the Pure Land world again you can go to the Jinshan temple beside the Qin River. This poor monk is a monk there. You already know this poor monk's dharma name, it is Chuanzang. This poor monk has a junior named Mingshan, he will give Tanua some compensation. Alright, little monk. This old man already knows. Go quickly. The boatman stretches and says, this old man is already old, this trip across the sea will be my last. If there are no accidents, this old man will not go to the Pure Land world again. Then, Chuanzang is a bit embarrassed and says in a low voice, then what can this poor monk do for Tanua? Otherwise, this poor monk will not be able to live with it. How about this? The boatman thinks for a while and says with a smile, I wonder if you can meet Mahavairakana? This poor monk does not know. Chuanzang answers honestly. The boatman says with a smile, how about this, if you meet Mahavairakana, help me ask how many years I can live. If you can't, then forget it. Western Paradise? Lane Temple? Hearing this, Chuanzang's eyes flash with a trace of splendor, his fair face seems to blush, and he puts his palms together. That's right, this poor monk's goal in this life is Western Paradise. Don't worry, Tanua, this poor monk will definitely go to Lane Temple in Western Paradise. When this poor monk meets Mahavairakana, this poor monk will definitely help Tanua ask about this matter. However, what is Tanua's name? How should this poor monk tell the revered one? Just say that you are a fisherman on the river. The boatman turns his eyes and answers, Mahavairakana has searched all 3 continents, he must know this old man. Chuanzang nodded. I will remember. Old Tanua, take care. After saying that, Chuanzang put his palms together and bowed. He looked at the direction and walked away step by step. His footsteps were firm, and his figure was vigorous, as if he had been walking for hundreds of years. When Chuanzang was far away, the boatman's body flashed and revealed the appearance of an ape. However, this ape was wearing chainmail and held a magic staff in his hand. He looked very mighty. Wasn't this the fire ape Yuan Tongtian? Strange. Yuan Tongtian looked at the almost invisible Chuanzang and asked in confusion, why does Master want me to protect this monk? It was really unreasonable. Furthermore, this monk did not have the slightest bit of Buddhist cultivation. He could not even take a single step forward. From the western land of ultimate bliss to the hidden immortal continent, he had to rely on the sea boat alone. If it wasn't for my protection on the sea boat, this monk would have already been fed to the fishes. Why did he come to the longevity town of the hidden immortal continent instead of cultivating in the Jinshan temple? Also, the so-called Western Paradise Lane Temple, isn't it in the Pure Land world? Even I, who is not a monk, know about it. Why doesn't this little monk know about it? Isn't he going to the Lane Temple in the Pure Land world? Why did he come to the hidden immortal continent? Sigh, forget it, forget it. Master has given me a new life. Master told me to protect him. I will protect him. As long as I didn't find the wrong person. Yuan Tongtian scratched his ears and cheeks for a moment. He gritted his teeth and rushed into the air. From afar, he watched Chuanzang walk step by step into the depths of the hidden immortal continent. Isn't this Chuanzang the Jiang lure that Xiaohua brought from the Xiaoyu continent to the western land of ultimate bliss? Chuanzang naturally came to the hidden immortal continent because of the Buddhist edict from the Lane Temple. However, as for the Western Paradise, is it the Lane Temple in the Pure Land world? Or is it the Western Paradise in Xiaohua's space? That is not something that Chuanzang can distinguish. Even more so, it is not something that Yuan Tongtian can know. Who knows when Chuanzang will be able to find it? After walking for half a day, Chuanzang saw a fishing village in front of him. A net that was more than 10 zhang long was hung on a wooden frame to dry. A few fishermen were lying on the hillside basking in the sun while a few fisherwomen were repairing the net. Chuanzang licked his somewhat dry lips. He quickened his pace and walked forward. Before he could get close, a group of children playing on the hillside on the left saw him. A few timid ones quickly ran back to the adults. The remaining bold ones quickly ran down the hillside and stared at Chuanzang from afar. They looked at his monk robe and bald head. Little monk, you came from the Western Paradise? A fisherwoman not far from Chuanzang raised her head. Her hands did not stop working as she shouted again. Amitabha, Chuanzang respectfully saluted and said, "This poor monk came from the Jinshan temple in the Pure Land world. I want to go to the immortal town in the Shi country of Yu province. This poor monk encountered a tsunami on the East Sea. Right now my mouth is thirsty. Can I ask benefactress to give me a bowl of water to drink?" "Ehe, little monk, you are so soft and tender. You actually crossed the ocean." When the fisherwoman heard that Chuanzang really came from the Western Paradise, she was not surprised. She smiled and said, "The tsunami a few days ago was indeed rare. In this small village 4 people were killed. However, for a Buddhist expert like this little monk, it is nothing." Speaking of this, the fisherwoman suddenly woke up. She asked in surprise, "Little monk, what did you say? You want to drink water? You monks with great magical powers, still need to drink water?" In this fisherwoman's view, which monk who came from the Western Paradise to the hidden immortal continent did not fly over the fisherman and fisherwoman's head? Which one of them would come to this small fishing village? Even if there were monks who would come to ask for directions, who would come step by step? Who would ask for water to drink? This poor monk specializes in chanting Buddhist scriptures. "I don't know Buddhist magical powers. I have a mortal body. Of course I know that I am thirsty." Chuanzang's expression did not change. He replied with a smile. When the fisherwoman heard this, her eyes were immediately filled with respect. No one knew the dangers of the Eastern Sea better than them who made a living in the sea. Chuanzang, a mortal, actually came from the Western Paradise to the hidden immortal continent. Ordinary people could not imagine the hardships he experienced. Amitabha, the fisherwoman, also said the name of Buddha. She hurriedly put down the work in her hand, squatted down, and took out a small black porcelain jar from the side of a stone. She took off the small bowl covering the jar, pulled a cloth from her head and carefully wiped it. She poured a bowl of water in front of Chuanzang and said respectfully, "This monk is also an eminent monk. Please drink." "Thank you, benefactress." Chuanzang hurriedly took it over and drank it slowly, without spilling a single drop of water on the table. When Chuanzang returned the small bowl, he asked again, "Benefactress, this poor monk also wants to ask, how far is Yuzhou from here? Is this poor monk going in the right direction?" "This." The fisherwoman was very hesitant and said embarrassedly, "This servant only knows that this place is the border of Yangzhou. This servant does not know where Yuzhou is." At this point, the fisherwoman hurriedly called out to the several children beside her, "Second fish, third fish, quickly go and call your father." "Yes, mother." The 2 children who looked very strong responded cheerfully and ran to the hillside. They also called out, "Father, father." The 2 children ran away and the other children also ran away. "Master, drink some more water." The fisherwoman finally thought of a title and hurriedly picked up the jar again. "Thank you, benefactress." Chuanzang licked his dry lips and said with a nod. Not long after, a man with a naked upper body and clothes hanging on his waist quickly walked over. He looked at Chuanzang with vigilance and then asked in surprise, "Second fish's mother, what's the matter?" "His father." The fisherwoman rebuked, "Quickly put on your clothes. This is an eminent monk from the Western Paradise. He wants to ask how to get to Yuzhou. Just fly in that direction." The man pointed with his finger without hesitation. "His father. He's asking how to get there." The fisherwoman poked the man and reminded him. The man was stunned. He looked up and down at Chuanzang and asked curiously, "Since the master can fly, why do you want to walk?" The fisherwoman hurriedly said, "This master is different from the previous ones. He can't fly. He wants to walk to Yuzhou." Walk. The man was like a cat whose tail was stepped on. He almost jumped up and said in surprise, "You want to walk to Yuzhou? This place is less than 100,000 miles away from Yuzhou? Won't you have to walk for 8 to 10 years? The man naturally did not walk too far. Naturally, he did not know how long it would take to walk to Yuzhou. His words could only be guessed. However, when Chuanzang heard this, he smiled and still put his palms together and said, "Amitabha, no matter how far it is, this poor monk will go. This is my Buddha's decree." Amitabha. Chuanzang had a kind of infectious power. It was a kind of propaganda that came from the inside out. Regardless of whether it was his actions or words, they were filled with a kind of heavy dharma. People could not help but feel respect and worship in their hearts. The fisherman who was originally vigilant immediately chanted Buddha's name. "The master is really an eminent monk." Second fish's mother, "Quickly prepare some dry food and give it to the master. I'll go and ask for the way to Yuzhou. Master, please wait here for a moment." "Thank you, benefactors." Just ask for the way. There's no need to prepare any dry food. This poor monk can just ask for alms wherever he goes. Chuanzang said amiably. That won't do. The fisherwoman hurriedly shouted, this place is very far from the other fishing villages. If the master doesn't bring some dry food, I'm afraid he will starve to death on the way. No matter. This poor monk can also eat the wild fruits and other things on the way. Chuanzang smiled and waved his hand. This poor monk came from Jinshan Temple like this. When they heard that Chuanzang came to hidden immortal continent by eating wild fruits, the two fishermen's hearts softened. The fisherman waved his hand domineeringly and said, Master, if you don't take this dry food, I won't ask for directions for you. How about I send you to Yuzhou? Chapter 38:21. That's right. The fisherwoman agreed with her husband's statement and said, threateningly, if you don't bring these dry rations, I will never let you go. Amitabha, thank you, two benefactors. Chuanzang smiled slightly, really radiating Buddha light. He put his palms together and thanked them. The two fishermen went away happily. Alas, this little monk is really strange. In the distance, Yuan Tongtian shook his head helplessly. What Chuanzang said was what he saw with his own eyes. This Chuanzang really ate wild fruits, drank spring water, and walked step by step from Xinjiang to the South Sea, then from the South Sea to the East Sea to the Tibetan immortal continent. Of course, since Yuan Tongtian wanted to protect Chuanzang, he would not really let him starve to death. At the most critical moment, Yuan Tongtian would also let Chuanzang accidentally find some wild fruits to fill his stomach. But Yuan Tongtian absolutely did not dare to do it because he knew that although Chuanzang did not have the cultivation of Buddhism, as long as he slacked off a little, he would definitely be discovered by him. This strange behavior is really comparable to masters. Yuan Tongtian retracted his gaze and looked at the distant Elysium. He secretly sighed in his heart, but with this look Yuan Tongtian's eyes were hazy again. Master, where is he? Is he okay? The master that Yuan Tongtian thought of course, would not be in Elysium. Now Xiaohua was sitting in the sky above the soaring Dragon Mountain range. His hands were forming gestures, and he was very careful to activate his spiritual power. As the gestures flashed, a dark red brilliance was born in the mountain range below him, and then it swept a few miles like a flame. However, in this flame even the flowers and grass did not suffer any damage, and they were still swaying in the wind. After waiting for half a day, Xiaohua's figure flew for dozens of miles and stopped. He waved his hand and took out a few elixirs from the space and put them into his mouth. He smacked his lips and shook his head helplessly. Damn, this sect protection array is really not easy, and combining a defensive array like the Capital Star Array with two offensive arrays, the Pleiades Demon Devouring Immortal Array and the Golden Crow Immortal Slaying Demon Array is really difficult. I originally intended to let Xiong Yi and the other two help, but now it seems that I can only let them comprehend a part of the array first. With their current cultivation, it is already good that they can freely control it. This Xiao is destined to be exhausted. Speaking up to here, Xiaohua looked towards the direction of the country of Xi and muttered to himself, I wonder what's happening over there. However, what does it have to do with this Xiao whether they are in chaos or not? If I release my divine sense, I will be able to see it. But once I release my divine sense, it will immediately be seen by others. Why would they come looking for trouble for no reason? Why don't we just set up camp here and enjoy ourselves? That day, when Xiong Yi said that Longevity Town's master Liao Shan was killed by a Confucian cultivator, Xiaohua immediately thought of the Sword Dao battle on Dawn Rain Continent. The current situation in Longevity Town was so similar to the situation before the Sword Dao battle on Dawn Rain Continent. How could Xiaohua possibly visit a place where a few words could ignite a fire? He turned around and flew to the Soaring Dragon Mountain range with Xiong Yi. While observing the Soaring Dragon Mountain range, he thought about how to set up the sect protecting formation. At the same time, he urged the Black Bear Spirit and the others to quickly move the Black Wind Ridges belongings to the Soaring Dragon Mountain range. He knew better than anyone that if the Immortal Palace made trouble, his Black Wind Ridge would definitely bear the brunt. After all, he was the culprit of the Yaotai Mountain. However, he didn't know if the situation in Longevity Town was too sensitive, or if the Immortal Palace didn't think of attacking Black Wind Ridge, which was not too far away from Longevity Town, or if the Immortal Palace didn't realize that Xiaohua was the culprit. In this half a year, everything in Black Wind Ridge was moved to the Soaring Dragon Mountain range. Moreover, Xiaohua spent a lot of effort to gradually set up the Capital Star Array that he had successfully comprehended, as well as the Pleiades demon devouring immortal array and the golden crow immortal slaying demon array that he had comprehended. However, he didn't see half a shadow of the immortal palace's immortal soldiers and immortal generals, nor did he receive any other special information. Under Xiaohua's soul technique, the immortal palace that had been patrolling Black Wind Ridge didn't notice anything strange about Black Wind Ridge. In order to not alert the immortal palace, Xiaohua never bothered to send messages to them. Presumably this was one of the reasons. Master. While Xiaohua was resting, Imperial Prince Lan flew over from afar and bowed. You've worked hard. Emin? Xiaohua nodded. If you don't want this old man to work hard, you all should hurry up and comprehend the array and help me set it up. Master. Imperial Prince Lan smiled bitterly at first, then said with a flattering smile, it's not that this disciple doesn't want to help Master. It's just that Master's array is truly wondrous. Even little junior brother can't comprehend it. It's better for this disciple to assist Master. The little junior brother that Imperial Prince Lan spoke of was naturally Fujiwen. Fujiwen's array Dao was relatively profound, but if he were to comprehend the array formed by the three innate divine restrictions, it would be beyond his cultivation and knowledge. In fact, not to mention Fujiwen, even the Gongshu family's last could only stand at the side and give pointers. If she were to help Xiaohua set up the array, she would also be unable to do so. You still need to cultivate more Xiaohua said helplessly. This array Dao will be part of my Fortune Gates lineage in the future. Yes, this disciple understands. Hearing this, Imperial Prince Lan's heart was filled with admiration. The longer he followed Xiaohua, the more he felt that Xiaohua's cultivation was unfathomable. It could even be said that Xiaohua was omnipotent. What smithing, what alchemy, what array Dao. Every single one of them was a breath of fresh air to Imperial Prince Lan. They were all out of his reach. This array Dao will be managed by little junior brother in the future. This disciple will depend on his own luck. There is no jealousy in your heart. This breadth of mind is much stronger than before. Xiaohua nodded. Just based on this breadth of mind, this old man's teaching of you was not in vain. Yes, Master. Imperial Prince Lan straightened his face and said, Master said that to become an immortal, this disciple remembers clearly. Only with Master's breadth of mind can this disciple be worthy of being Master's disciple. This flattery Master is gratified. Xiaohua suddenly said such a sentence, making His Highness Lan stare blankly for a moment, then with a slightly embarrassed smile he said, Disciple came today to inform Master that everything in the Black Wind Mountain Range has already been transferred to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. He Xiong asked this disciple to inform Master that there are too many origin stone veins underground. Not to mention the ones we have yet to excavate, just the ones we have are enough to mine for several years. This disciple has tried various methods, but none of them are ideal and can't speed up the progress. This disciple asks Master to make a decision. So it's like this. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and said, when you return to the Black Wind Ridge, tell He Xiong and the others to come to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. You don't need to worry about the origin stone veins anymore. Yes, Master. Imperial Prince Lan added, also recently, some Confucian cultivators have come to harass my Black Wind Ridge. And let them be. Xiaohua smiled and said, they are just some clowns, no need to pay attention to them. Also, there is news from the Longevity Town. Some Confucian cultivator family wanted to topple the Buddha statue on the Jiangqiao Ridge, but the Buddhist sect's Manjushri Bodhisattva appeared and scared them away. Many believers rushed to the Longevity Town, wanting to see the true face of the Bodhisattva. Oh? He came to the hidden immortal continent? Xiaohua smiled and thought of the little monk Xiaihui. Master, you know this Manjushri Bodhisattva? Imperial Prince Lan was slightly stunned and asked probingly. He is a Bodhisattva from the Lane Temple. I know him, but he might not know me. Xiaohua smiled and said, I only saw him before he attained enlightenment. Who is this Buddhist sect's Manjushri Bodhisattva? Imperial Prince Lan smiled and said, this is the first time disciple has heard of him. Manjushri Bodhisattva is indeed Manjushri Bodhisattva. Xiaohua replied, since attaining enlightenment is separated from the secular world, if I mention the past again, it would be disrespectful to him. Alright, disciple won't ask any more. Imperial Prince Lan knew that Xiaohua was unwilling to answer, so he smiled and said, also there are two very important news Xiongyi senior brother asked disciple to tell Master. There are actually two? Xiaohua said with a smile. Yes, the first is that Jiasa was destroyed. Imperial Prince Lan's words were shocking. Xiaohua was shocked. Destroyed by who? Master did not pay attention to this recently. Such a big thing happened near my Black Wind Ridge? Naturally, it was Bronze Pillar Country, Gu Country and Jiming Country. Prince Lan explained, Master didn't make things difficult for the Bronze Pillar Kingdom. Although the Bronze Pillar Kingdom's national power had declined, its national strength was still there. The Bronze Pillar Kingdom joined forces with the Gu Kingdom and the Jiming Kingdom to destroy the Jasa Kingdom in one fell swoop under the banner of annihilating the Buddhism sect. Xiaohua suddenly inhaled sharply, seeming to understand something. He looked at Imperial Prince Lan. What else did your senior brother say about Jiasa country? Senior brother said that the national teacher of Jiasa country is too powerful, and that Chongling Princess is also a strategist. They must have seen the difficulty of the Buddhist sect establishing a country in Yuzhou, and first planned to use Taoism to establish Jiang country. Now Jiasa country has been destroyed as expected, but Jiang country still exists. If the Chongling Princess is a descendant of Jiasa country, then the present Jiang country is the original people of Jiasa country. It's just that it changed from the Buddhist sect establishing a country to the Taoist sect establishing a country. These people's thoughts are too complicated. Xiaohua sighed. This old man can't do this kind of planning. What's the second matter? The second matter is that a Taoist country in Jing province that received the lot of the national teacher was just killed by the Immortal Palace. And this matter, this old man knows. Xiaohua frowned slightly and then asked, how did Xiongyi know that the destroyed Taoist country was the one that received the lot of the national teacher? Master, our fortune gate has just been established, and does not have a mature source of information. Imperial Prince Lan answered, when this disciple was establishing a country, he would send a special disciple to be in charge of this matter. After all, without information, it is like being blind, and with information you can take the initiative. Senior brother Xiong's information should have been sent by his former disciple. If he didn't personally investigate, then he got it from a place like Star Picking Tower. Usually he wouldn't be wrong. Chapter 38-22. By the way, your disciples have also come to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range, right? Xiaohua nodded. Don't treat them unfairly. Senior brother Xiongyi and most of my disciples have come. There are still some scattered all over the hidden immortal continent who haven't had the time to come. His Highness Lan respectfully said, however, the disciples who have come are very satisfied with the situation in the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. And these are some things this old man obtained before. You can discuss how to distribute them among yourselves. Xiaohua took out a few small Qinghuan bags and handed them over to His Highness Lan. In addition, if you have any special needs or if Master forgets to give them to you, you can ask Master in time. Yes, Master. His Highness Lan took the small Qinghuan bags and carefully put them away without checking them. According to senior brother's arrangement, disciple has gradually begun to let some disciples arrange various kinds of medicinal fields and alchemy places in the mountain range. However, these things won't have any effect until 1,000 years have passed. Master knows. Xiaohua said, there are too many clues to establish a sect. Master will leave these chores to you. Master will be your backing. Master will give you whatever you lack. Master being so assured is also disciple's great fortune. His Highness Lan said with a smile, moreover, disciple is even more fortunate to have Master to guide disciple's cultivation. His Highness Lan's words were absolutely from the bottom of his heart. After Xiaohua came to the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range to arrange the array, he had separately guided Xiongyi Lan and Li Xiang's cultivation 3 times. His Highness Lan didn't know the effects of others, but he was clear about his own background. Before His Highness Lan guided Xiaohua, His Highness Lan's cultivation hadn't made any progress for many years. Therefore he wanted to see if he could make a breakthrough in the Jade Pavilion Conference. However, under Xiaohua's guidance, His Highness Lan suddenly felt that the bottleneck in front of him had suddenly disappeared. That layer of barrier in front of his eyes had suddenly disappeared. An indescribable feeling of enlightenment made him see the direction of his cultivation. Moreover, what made His Highness Lan excited was that the medicinal pills Xiaohua gave him were really effective. They were many times more effective than the medicinal pills he had obtained and taken before. Seeing his cultivation progress by leaps and bounds, His Highness Lan was really glad for his decision at that time. Alright, stop flattering me. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Go tell the disciples of Black Wind Mountain Range to return to Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Be careful, don't attract the attention of others. In a few days, Master will go and deal with the matter of the elemental or vein. Yes, Master. Royal Highness Lan smiled, bowed and flew away. Looks like it's time for this old man to make a move. Xiao Hua watched His Highness Lan fly away and smiled faintly. His hands once again formed seals and set up the array formation step by step. A few days later, the disciples of the Black Wind Ridge gradually returned. Xiao Hua's arrangement of the Great Array had also come to an end. Xiao Hua handed over the newly refined array flags and array talismans to Xiong Yi and the others, then flew to the Black Wind Ridge alone. Just as Imperial Prince Lan had said, there were a few more Confucian cultivators patrolling around Black Wind Mountain Range. However, these cultivators didn't deliberately attack, as if they were waiting for an opportunity. Xiao Hua didn't care about these cultivators. They couldn't even sense Xiong Yi and the others leaving, so it was even more impossible for them to know that Xiao Hua had arrived. Xiao Hua once again took out the soil and examined it. In a short moment, in the broken passage, Xiao Hua's body flashed with a brilliant light, and he escaped from the soil layer in a somewhat sorry state. As soon as Xiao Hua flew out, he immediately lamented. Damn it, this old man finally understands why those great cultivators don't rashly use their divine abilities. However, at this time Xiao Hua had other ideas. He did not have time to mutter anymore. He hastily formed a seal, and his figure continued to escape into the ground. After passing through the black fog, Xiao Hua arrived at the original metal, wood and magnetic field space. The metal, wood and magnetic fields had already been taken away by Xiao Hua, but the residual metal, wood and magnetic forces still existed. This 3,650 acres of space was not filled with the black fog, and the black fog that isolated divine sense was still attached to the surroundings of the space. Yes, this space is indeed large, but it's extremely far from the ground. Moreover, there's still magnetic forces in the space, so there's no sign of it collapsing. Xiao Hua opened his divine sense, and after looking for a moment, he inwardly pondered. Such a large space with the protection of the black fog won't be discovered by others. It's really secretive. Since this Xiao wants to set up a teleportation array in the hidden immortal continent, it should be set up here. No one would think of it. Also, if the Immortal Palace comes to the Black Wind Ridge to look for this Xiao, that would be even better. Xiao Hua thought again. The Black Wind Ridge has been destroyed by the Immortal Palace, and has become a wasteland. Who would pay attention to the Black Wind Ridge? This Xiao's teleportation array will not be known by others. Let's do it this way. Ah. Xiao Hua laughed heartily as he flew out of the magnetic field space, and continued to plunder primeval stones. Xiao Hua's thoughts were not wrong. He had obtained the Grand Universe teleportation token for a long time, and he had already comprehended the teleportation array inside, especially after activating the divine restriction. After he personally set up the Capital Star Array, he already had 80% confidence in setting up the teleportation array. Within his space, he had already obtained a lot of materials to set up the teleportation array. In addition to the huge stone teleportation array at the bottom of the Saint River, it was more than enough to set up 2 teleportation arrays. However, Xiao Hua did not have the time, nor did he find a suitable place, so he had not set up the teleportation array. Of course, the most important thing was that this teleportation array was only useful when used in pairs. Xiao Hua had not thought of where to set up the teleportation array. Even the divine sense mark he left behind on the snowy mountain in the Western Paradise was just to prepare for setting up the teleportation array. Now, if the teleportation array was really set up under the Black Wind Ridge, then the other end of the teleportation array should be at the snowy mountain in the Western Paradise. If Xiao Hua wanted to set up the teleportation array, he would have to make a trip to the Western Paradise. Yes, I will first set up the teleportation array here, then this Xiao will make a trip to the Western Paradise in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. This way this Xiao will not have to spend too much time going to the other 2 places. Xiao Hua thought as he used his mind to tidy up the primeval stone mine. This Grand Universe teleportation token, its origin is indeed mysterious, and the secrets within it are definitely strange. However, these immortal generals were tall and sturdy, and the flames could not block the threatening evil chi of the immortal generals. The chariots were also hung with war banners. Some of the war banners had Qingyuan written on them, some had Sun Palace written on them, and some had Great General written on them. Although the handwriting on the war banners was different, Each war banner surged with multicolored light. Streams of awe-inspiring chi came from the void and rushed into the war banners, and the big characters on them also showed incomparable majesty. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.